championship has been captured by the Indiana Pacers.
Alex Pillow wins the 109th Indianapolis 500.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Good morning and welcome into another week-long edition of the championship won by the Indiana Hoosiers this past week as we continue to celebrate that. More details on that coming up in a moment. Got a lot of great things coming for you later on today. We'll check in with Butler basketball. They won a couple of games in a row. Thad Matta going to join us a little bit later on today. But, man, the lean pickings on the TV last night. Did watch the Celtics and Pacers for a while, and then it just kind of started to get out of hand, and I didn't see the very end of that basketball game as they lose to the Boston Celtics. Maybe it was I know they kept it tight in the first quarter. I think it was tied at 18 at one point in time. But maybe the harbinger of things to come was Sam Hauser hitting back-to-back threes to start the game for the Celtics. I don't know. What do you think, James?
Par for the course. Pascal Siakam playing 1-on-5. That's my assessment.
Felt that way. There were some nice moments from Johnny Furphy. Jarris Walker, what did you think of him last night all in all, Kevin Bowen?
Yeah, I think James is pretty hitting the nail on the head right there. Honestly, my prevailing thought watching the Pacers last night, and I can't believe I'm not this guy. I hate saying it on January 22nd. When do they shut down Pascal Siakam? You know, like that's where I'm at. He's done everything you could dream of this season. He should be an all-star reserve. He's been exceptional, absolutely exceptional. And I just watched that team operate last night. I think to myself, you know what? The last thing they need is a 6-month injury from Pascal Siakam. So, you know, he's being taxed too. You know, we've seen them give him a couple days off, but believe it's the most minutes he's played with the Pacers. Obviously, if you watch any game, double, triple, quadruple teams at times. So, yeah, that was the big thought. And I actually watched a dude that I think might go in the top 5 last night. I watched a lot of Notre Dame, North Carolina. Oh, boy. I know it's DeBanza. I know it's Darren Williams. But, damn, Caleb Wilson. That is some high-level skill from a North Carolina 6'9" athletic dude there. I will be very interested to see how high he goes in the draft.
I did not see any of that game last night, and I've only read about his exploits. I've not seen him play yet. What excites you about him the most?
Well, first off, he's probably a natural 4, and, you know, I don't want to get too much into the roster, you know, positional nature to the Pacers. I think with the NBA draft, it's such a crapshoot. You just draft the best player, period. Like, I don't really care where the position is there, but highly skilled, can really pass it. I was really struck by that. That was probably a very underrated aspect. I didn't expect him. Leads the ACC in rebounding. We know rebounding has been an issue for the Pacers here, so we'll have plenty of time to get into the draft and all of that, but I was very impressed by watching Caleb Wilson. Sorry, Mark. Last night with Brad Stevens in attendance, I must say.
Your ears perked right up when he started to say Caleb Williams. You thought, now we're talking about something.
He almost said it the first time. I was ready.
I don't know how you guys have been the last couple of days. I was driving home in the afternoon yesterday. It's probably like 3:30, 4 o'clock, and I'm heading up Michigan, up north, and because I got to run some errands, whatever. And I found myself at one point, James, I just started laughing out loud at the thought of the Indiana Hoosiers going 16-0 and taking the top spot in college football. I've seen how good they are. We've talked about how good they are. I know how good they are. I've talked about how they dominated the trenches in most games, or certainly held their own end of the bargain up in every game. The talent is there. They're going to have a bunch of guys go to the NFL this past year. But I don't know if it was joy or disbelief or a little bit of both. But still, I found myself just laughing out loud at a stoplight yesterday for about 15 seconds or so. It was great. It was a joyous laugh. But it's still like, is this real?
I'll say this. I got a kick out of, speaking of laughing, Fernando Mendoza updating his LinkedIn after winning the national championship. And he had a couple of notes about the experience, and one of them was take the risk when it's 4th and 5 at the 12-yard line, go for it. How about it, man? Easy dude to root for.
He's gonna be aggressive in his choices in life moving forward, Kevin Bowen. Why not?
You know, it's funny. I've gone back, and obviously the highlight is everywhere, and you know, pops up on my timeline seemingly every other hour. And I watched the play again a couple of different times yesterday. I think one of the more underrated aspects to that play is, you know, as he starts to take off upfield, first off, Pat Coogan, you know, their center, I think, does a really, really good job in establishing an early block, but Coogan actually falls to the ground. And if you watch it, Mendoza has to like sidestep, kind of short shuffle his way around Coogan. And it was like a very impressive, like athletic moment there from Fernando Mendoza. Like, I think we'll look back on that play. We'll remember him taking the hit, bouncing off the Miami linebacker. We'll remember, obviously, the infamous stretch across the goal line there, the very Andrew Luck Superman theme to it. But, like, that was just kind of one of those early moments in the play where, you know, if he even has to just alter his stride at that point, it was 4th and 5. So, you know, that was before the first down marker. You know, does he even get there on that play? So, yeah, James, I had to laugh. I think in my day, I've probably checked Twitter. I've probably checked Instagram. If I'm not going to lie, I maybe have checked TikTok for someone that I've covered. I don't know if I've ever checked LinkedIn.
Oh, boy. I have it. I feel like I share my stories on there, but I do hate that app. I think when I log on and I see somebody put a long post about how some work experience that is very mundane changed their life, I don't want to see that.
Oh, you just don't want to get inspired then, do you?
No, it's propaganda. I was standing at the copy machine and I thought to myself, if I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, I'll be able to seize the day. Like, who cares? I don't care.
I think it's for people that have real jobs and make real money.
Exactly.
Who would like to put themselves in a favorable light for potential employers.
Yeah, and I'd be thinking, boy, that's why I'm not hiring anybody, because I'd be thinking this is all fraudulent.
I thought about endorsing Fernando Mendoza for effort yesterday on LinkedIn when I saw that.
That's the whole thing.
Oh man! Oh man! Oh man! I will not. I don't think I'll ever get tired of that kid, that young man, I should say.
I will say this: watching him run, I don't think I'll ever be confident in him running. Like, I know he can do it, but the way he does it and the way it looks, boy, I never think it's gonna go well. I'm always just like, get down. It's the way he like hunches his back over, kinda. And he runs with like the why I oughta stance. And I think to myself, just do whatever you can to get down, please. But the legs are another reason why he will be most likely number 1 pick in the draft. Speaking of the draft, the NFL Draft Combine got the news yesterday from Pat McAfee, native son, it seems like, of Indiana, that the Draft Combine will remain here in Indy through 2028. Another 2-year extension on the deal they already have, which is a good thing. I think that the draft, which has been here since 1987, should remain here. It ain't been messed up in about 40 years. Why move it?
I don't understand why they'd ever move it out of this city.
Well, money, you know.
I understand the money part, but I can't imagine there would be that much more money. And for, let's say Los Angeles decided to pick it up, which was rumored a couple of years ago. They're not going to have everything condensed. Everything is spread out all over the place. You're not, I don't know how much more money you're going to make in 1 year. I don't care where you have it. It's not going to live up to what Indianapolis has procured and manifested over the last 40 years because they just know exactly what to do, how to do it, when to do it.
Yeah, Dallas and Vegas would be 2 cities I'd put on the map that definitely have wanted to try and get the combine. Shout out to Chris Gall from Visit Indy, and that whole operation, Sports Core, IU Health, so many people involved in it. As James said, Visit Indy, I think, was given McAfee the leadership award for, he is such an ambassador for our city yesterday, and they made that announcement. And yes, there are several NFL owners out there that want to get it out of Indy. They want to spread the wealth, and not that it's the money driver, obviously, that a Super Bowl is, or even the NFL draft is, but still, you're talking, economic value around $10 million. You're talking 30+ thousand visitors. And it's the one event, James, where for the most part, everybody's here. Coach, GM, a lot of ownerships, agents.
Yep. And the top prospects, of course.
The top prospects and even some current NFL players. Like, sometimes you do your big meetings here. If you are, it's not a great example because the Colts obviously live here, but if you're Daniel Jones and you played for a different team and you're in the same situation, you might come to Indy and say, all right, let's all meet at insert your steakhouse here.
Oh, yeah.
For, free agency starting here in a couple weeks.
I would think that's when a lot of handshake deals kind of get done.
Right. So, again, Lucas Oil was really built to have the efficiency of the combine from a medical testing standpoint. And, I'm speaking to an audience here that doesn't need to hear any of this, but the skywalks and the, ability to have the convention center and Lucas Oil, and we have Starbucks in the JW Marriott where there could be some fisticuffs here between the media as well during Combine Week, which is always good to see. So maybe round 2 of Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport. We should maybe get Mark boots on the ground there.
That's a home game for Schultz, though, at a Starbucks, right?
Very much a home game.
We're
right?
about a month out. Combine starts on February 23rd, so get the boxing
I'm trying
gloves
to
ready.
think, like,
There you go.
what would ever compel me to square up with another reporter? And it's just not that deep. You beat me. You got the scoop 1 minute before me. It is time to throw down.
You know what's interesting, though?
Sometimes I hate our industry.
I've actually talked to friends throughout the years, and you guys are talking about that, and I've been there. I've been, like you, James, a long time ago, a reporter that was fighting and scrapping for every story, and you
Like
want
literally
your
or
byline.
figuratively?
Figuratively.
Okay. I was getting excited there for a second.
But you do. You're proud of your work, and you want to distinguish yourself, and that's fantastic. But I don't know the general public cares all that much who breaks a story as long as they know what the story is.
I feel like last year, obviously, after that scrap happened, everybody the next day was taking pictures outside of that Starbucks. I feel like this year, the hot spot is going to be the alley that Mark Sanchez got stabbed in.
Yes.
Wow.
Have a little lunch there at Og Miller's, and then all of a
We're
sudden
just playing all the downtown greatest hits this
slide
morning.
into the alley there.
Part of the 30,000 tourists are going to come and, get a peek and take a picture and keep it moving.
What if I told you? You could start the 30 for 30 right there
Lord.
from the alley.
People
I
are
will
going to
say
think
this.
there's a brawl waiting to break out at any time in downtown Indy after this.
I will say this. I do think when it comes to the NFL Draft Combine, Fernando Mendoza will probably have the biggest draw, I would think, when it comes to media and attention. Want to do probably a lot of on-field work if he doesn't want to, but I'm thinking of some of the bigger scrums I've seen throughout the years, and it's always big for the quarterbacks, and him being just an hour away from where he played college ball, it's going to be packed.
Yeah, I think back, this will be, I don't know, probably the 10th, 12th, 13th something combine that I've been to. Jameis Winston, that scrum, the Manti Te'o scrum.
What's crazy? Last year, Travis Hunter.
You go back to Kyler Murray and Joe Burrow for different reasons. The Murray thing was more the baseball thing. Burrow, it was, are you going to demand that you don't play in Cincinnati? So usually there's one each year. Certainly Caleb Williams a couple of years ago as well. So
I remember the Caleb Williams scrum. Do you remember the guy? First question as he gets up to the podium. Hey, Caleb, are you scared to compete? What do you have to say about your peers? When you get out here, you don't want to do any testing. It's like he's the number one pick. They never test.
Yeah, I know. I'm like thinking, is Fernando Mendoza really going to test? Or is it just going to be, hey, let me show off my intellect. Let me show off my LinkedIn page for a whole
I
week.
think it's going to be him showing off his vocabulary. So bring your thesaurus if you're an NFL scout.
The chaos I remember is the Jalen Carter non-podium thing. When all that news broke right ahead of
was
time, there's this
crazy.
big scrum, and everybody's like, wait, what's happening? Everybody's on their phone. I remember that one very well.
Yeah, he had an arrest warrant issued when he was supposed to take the podium. And fortunately for him, it did not happen while he was already up there because he would have been asked about it right in front of everybody. But that was crazy.
And now we still wait kind of official word in Bloomington from some of their draft prospects not named. Well, I guess Fernando Mendoza technically hasn't declared, but Omar Cooper Jr., D'Angelo Pons technically is just a junior. I saw he accepted an invite to the Senior Bowl. I think there is a belief that he will go, but again, when you make the national championship game, part of the perks is you have your window a little bit more open to making those declarations. So
yeah. And your stock, in his case, probably can't get much higher than it is
right.
right
It's
now.
not like he's going to grow.
Yeah.
I think he will be a fascinating NFL debate. And honestly, I think the Colts could learn a thing or two. Maybe we can get into that as the show moves along from a player like Pons. So kind of still awaiting that from Bloomington as we get closer here to, as Mark said, a month out from the NFL Combine.
All right, watch this. Caleb Williams. There he goes.
He's awesome.
All right. We've got the check down coming your way in just a moment with a big day ahead as well. Tell you how you can get some of those souvenir national championship footballs as the morning goes along as well. It's all straight up on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Checkdown. Brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here. The Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships with NCAA tournament bids on the line. March 8th through 10th. Tickets and more at horizonleague.com/Indy.
We will start in the NBA. Last night, the Indiana Pacers lose to the Boston Celtics 119-104. It was on the road. They've lost 3 in a row now, but Pascal Siakam continues to prove that he is all-star worthy. We'll find out whether or not he gets a nod. But, Kevin, 32 points, 10 rebounds, and he seemingly is doing this every single night. You said earlier it's almost as if he's going 1-on-5 every night. It feels that way sometimes.
Yeah, shout out to James. Yeah, James said that to lead off the show there. And, yeah, that's what it looks like, certainly night in and night out. I guess somewhat competitive for the first quarter. Then after that, they made a couple of those fake runs, but never really got it close the rest of the way. This road trip was going to be brutal, and it has been so far. At the Thunder coming up tomorrow, at the Hawks on Monday, and then they'll finally be back home. By the way, was this NBA score real last night? Was that Knicks Nets score real?
Yes, it was. You want to fill people in on the score?
120-66.
In the second quarter, the Nets scored 18 points. They scored 18 in the third and 10 in the fourth.
They stink. They also are competing with the Pacers and a few other teams for that number 1 pick.
That should count as 2 losses.
First
in this
half
day
and second
age
half
of the NBA, if you cannot get to 70 points on a given night, hell, if you can't get to 80 on a given night, which we might see a lot more tanking than if that counted as 2 losses. So maybe it's a good thing it only counts as 1 for the Pacers.
As you said, Oklahoma City on the docket tomorrow night for the Indiana Pacers. You'll hear it live here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Football, the Indiana Hoosiers continue to celebrate that national championship, earned with a win over the Miami Hurricanes on Monday night. If you're looking at one more chance to go and see the trophy itself and celebrate with a couple of the Hoosiers, last I saw, you could go to Walmart tonight in Bloomington. That's the one on Indiana 45, 3315 Indiana 45. So if you want to see the trophy, get up close to it, that's a chance to go and do that. Other than that, just continuing to follow the exploits of Fernando Mendoza online and everywhere else, James, continues to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it looked like he did a meet and greet or a signing thing, autograph session or something at a Dick's Sporting Goods out there in Bloomington.
One of your favorite establishments, right?
No, I was actually referring to a different store. And Mark, if you want to pull that audio, feel free to play that.
Oh, you will.
Thanks for the reminder there, Kevin.
You're really twisting my arm there, James.
But the line was super long. I mean, there was a lot of people out there who didn't really have, I think, a ticket or a place in line. They just wanted to get a glimpse of him, and he was walking through like he was Jesus.
How long before he's on like one of the late night shows? It's got to be soon, right? With that personality and being the Heisman winner and presumed number 1 pick. It's got to
assume.
Yeah. It'll be fun to watch that. So that's what's happening there. Also, one local.
It's like Dick's on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
It's so bad. If my mother ever hears that, boy, I'll have a lot of explaining to do, boys.
It's a sporting goods store, Mom. It's a sporting goods store. That's what you say. Locally, James, former IU player Will Patterson, who's been coaching Lawrence Central for the last half dozen seasons, is leaving to go be an assistant coach at Butler. I don't know if you saw that last night.
Yeah, news to me.
All right, Indiana Fever had their schedule released yesterday. They will open the season, if there is a season that starts on time because of labor strife that's out there. It would be May 9th at home against the Dallas Wings. 5 of their first 6 would be at home. There is a 17-day gap in all of the WNBA schedule for the FIBA World Cup. And the Fever, in a league that doesn't have a ton of back-to-backs normally, they lead the way with 3 back-to-backs this year, which is kind of interesting. And so we'll wait and see if that season starts on time and how things go with the CBA. What else can we tell you? Indy, as you guys mentioned, has secured the NFL Combine for another 2 years. It just feels like this should be its forever home, doesn't it, Kevin?
Yeah, obviously we're heavily biased, but kudos to the NFL in all seriousness. Everything seems to be a money grab these days. But for them to recognize that league-wide, I think outside of a few owners, GMs and head coaches in unison want to keep it here. I think that's great that they continue to operate in Indy. 87 was the first year here. And again, you got Dallas, you got Vegas, you got some other cities competing heavily for it. But that announced last night from Chris Gall, Pat McAfee announcing that at the Visit Indy. State of the Union, if you will, at Lucas Oil Stadium. So definitely here. I think we've been on kind of these 1-year renewals, it feels like. And now here's the commitment through 2028.
Yeah, KB, hit up the commissioner, was like, yo, Roger, we got to keep this thing in Indy. He was like, all right, I'll tell Pat McAfee he can announce it.
He's got him on
Thanks,
speed
Roger.
text, I think.
Thank you, Roger.
Yeah. College basketball last night. North Carolina defeated Notre Dame 91-69, but you were more interested in a North Carolina player last night.
Caleb Williams, Mark, I'm going to say that all day long, aren't I? Caleb Wilson can ball, and he can do much more than just score. He's got a very impressive feel for the game, leads the AC in rebounding, playmaker as a passer as well. So, I'll be curious. He's been up there in mock drafts. I don't want to act like this is some guy that's not been up there. You look at any of these, and he's pretty much in the top 5 consistently. So we will continue to evaluate these guys and these names. Speaking of college basketball, shout out to Ben Howlett and IU Indy. They put up 105 or 103, I think it was last night. They beat Oakland, one of the better teams in the Horizon League there. So the run and gun nature of the new Jags starting to turn into a couple wins here in the Horizon League.
I dig that. Coming up tomorrow night, it'll be Butler hosting Marquette, 7:30 p.m. late tip tonight, or tomorrow night, I should say. You'll hear it here on the Fan. And then, you will hear that on Fuego because we'll have the Pacers tomorrow night at Oklahoma City.
I think it's 8 o'clock tip for that one.
7:30 airtime. 8 o'clock tip. So that's how that goes for Butler tomorrow night. Saturday, Illinois plays at Purdue at 3, Boston College at Notre Dame. That one starts at 6. And a programming note for the next few days here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Gentlemen, we will replay the national championship game against Miami tonight at 7 p.m. if you missed any of Don Fisher's call. And then we'll do it again Sunday afternoon if you're out and about in the car. That one will start at 1 p.m. Also, we will give you live coverage, James, of the in-stadium celebration beginning at 1 p.m. on Saturday here on The Fan. So we've still got you covered for Indiana football for the next several days here.
Yeah, you got to get all the experience out of this because it doesn't happen very often and actually never happened for your program. So enjoy it.
All right, coming up in a moment, we'll talk more about some of the things people are saying and writing about Indiana and where the program is headed next. Nothing but good things as we continue at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Speaking of the nation, I have certainly chatted with some people that have had hair transplants, regenerative treatments all across the nation, really, frankly, outside of the United States. And some of the stories there are, let's just say, less than flattering. Not my experience whatsoever at We Grow Hair Indy. Northwest side, that would be the Pyramids building number 2. They are the gold standard when it comes to hair restoration. They're ready to help you out today. I think you owe it to yourself, certainly as we have now begun this new year. Answers to the questions you have. You owe it. Curiosity I know is abound. I hear from people a lot in asking me about the process and what it was like and, questions that they have. And first off, I try to provide as many answers as I can, but I also encourage them, hey, just contact the best in the business, and that is We Grow Hair Indy. Darren Andrews and his staff, Northwest Side. Again, that's building number 2 at the Pyramids. And online, WeGrowHairIndy.com.
Thank you. Far too kind. Yeah. Ready? Can I get a
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's one of my all-time favorites right there, Mark Dykton. Thank you for getting me going on a Monday morning. I guess Thursday. That's how excited I am. Let's start the week over and do a national championship game again.
Let's go.
I liked it so much the first time. We're going to do it again tonight at 7 p.m. You can listen to Don Fisher on the Indiana University Football Network and their coverage and the play-by-play of the national championship game on Monday night tonight. So we're excited about that. And again, we'll have live coverage of the celebration from Memorial Stadium Saturday afternoon at 1. Right here at 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. A lot of people were asking me yesterday. I got a couple of messages from people wanting to know about those footballs that we were talking about yesterday, Kevin. If you want to get the national champions commemorative football from Nitco Sports, you can call 1-800-345-2868. That's 800-345-2868. Or you can go to Nitco, N-I-K-C-O, the C and K are backward from normal, nikco.com, and you can check it out there. A lot of good stuff. We had talked to the guy that was helping to produce and promote those yesterday, and I got a lot of feedback after the show on people wanting to check those things out.
Yeah, cool-looking footballs, to say the least. Yeah, I thought We had Rick Carlisle on there to end the show yesterday, and when he was chatting about Curt Cignetti, and he referenced, it was kind of like Babe Ruth calling his shot. To me, when Curt Cignetti operated in the manner that he did those first 24, 48 hours on the job, yeah, you could call it Babe Ruth, like whatever, Joe Namath at the pool, whatever reference you want to be.
Larry Bird, who's coming in second, the three-point contest.
Sure. But, okay, Larry Bird, who's coming in second, I guess is a pretty good example for it. That was not Curt Cignetti just running his mouth like, James, you might run your mouth at Center Grove on a Sunday morning. That was...
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about IU in Illinois. I ran my mouth for a month, and boy.
We could throw that analogy in there. You ran your mouth without substance, I guess, or without reason behind it. Curt Cignetti, he didn't run his mouth just to run his mouth. He wasn't trying to be some cocky teenager, on the playground here. He ran his mouth because he felt like it was needed. It was necessary for everyone to hear. And not just the fan base to hear, but I think a lot of people internally in the 812 area code within the walls of that athletic department, that university, that football program. That's why he Babe Ruthed it, if you will. And I think that's a little different than just, we have people that, run their mouths on a daily basis in professional sports or in college sports. Welcome to a big part of sports. Hell, we had an owner in the NFL yesterday run his mouth. Like,
that was wild.
That is different than what Curt Cignetti was doing. There is a very specific reason why he did the things that he did in the first 24 to 48 hours on that job.
We talked about it yesterday, and it go back to the discussion we had about alignment. Everything from the president of the university to probably the board above her, to the athletic director, to the head coach, to the players, to the student body, to the town of Bloomington and the fan base all over America. What he has done in the space of 18 months is bring all of that into complete and total alignment. Yes, winning will do that, but he did it the first season when they were ripping off all those wins at the beginning of the year, James.
Yeah, and you get the people who say you're a fraud, and when you ran into some real competition, you couldn't hang, and you just come back the next year and run the table. So that's a good way to set everybody up.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see, does it change where Indiana starts to spend money in the portal? Do they start spending the same kind of cash at the same levels that the usual suspects do all the time? My suspicions are that they will. Mark Cuban, standing on the field and being drenched in confetti the other night, was asked why he decided to start contributing to that program and what that was all about.
You're an investor, right? That's all you've done throughout your whole life. Shark Tank's about investing. You've given a lot to this program, and I'm always curious to know from a donor's perspective, we're not getting a building named after you. When the money goes directly to the players, what is the return on investment? Is this it? Like, what is this what you expected when you started donating?
No, not really. I mean, honestly, I really jumped in because of how he approaches building a program. They weren't about, okay, give me enough money to go get, to win the portal, right? To win this bidding war. He had a very specific approach to his culture. He had the whole thing about, I want production, not, futures, not potential. He understood roles and how to get guys. Because, it's not like even like the NBA where you might keep a guy like Dirk for 21 years or D Wade, right? Here, it's like you might have him for 1 year. And that takes a very special way of putting together a program. You need the right players, the roles, the right coaches. And so once I understood that, it was pretty straightforward. What I did want was somebody, give me more, let me go bid on this guy. That's why you see us with no 5 stars, 7 4 stars, because that's how you build a program. And I think that's the difference for winning. And that was the Shark Tank pitch, right? We're not going to chase, and spend the most, but we're going to be the smartest and put together a real program that knows how to win.
Find it interesting that a guy who makes his living investing and weighing the risks and rewards of businesses all the time, certainly in the public eye on Shark Tank, but even behind the scenes with other businesses, had the discussion, looked into it deeply, and guys, he was like, this is where I'd like to invest my money. I thought that was pretty cool. I know he's an IU alum, and so that makes a lot of sense, but he also doesn't sound like a guy who's just going to throw money at something just because.
Yeah, I just wish I had enough money to invest, Always easier to invest when you can lose the money.
There's no question about that, but he's demonstrated over the course of his lifetime that generally he throws his money in on things that he's going to really think give him big returns, Kevin. And this one did.
Yeah, the return of joy, right?
Right.
A fandom, yeah, not a financial return, a joy of, again, pure jubilation, something you haven't experienced at all. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely a unique way, and it certainly will be something that Indiana continues to rely on. And to be fair, I'm pretty sure Cuban wasn't really doing a whole lot from a financial commitment until after year one. And I think that's where the story's different. I think there's a bit of a misconception of obviously the portal helped. It helped immensely. All the JMU guys could transfer and be eligible right away. But I think there's a misconception of Indiana's roster is a la Texas Tech's roster, for example, where they literally went out and just bought a bunch of Power 5 dudes. Indiana definitely has some of that. I mean, Fernando Mendoza's not making, the same as the guy working at ZNC on Kirkwood there. But, the year one of it especially, that was a vast majority of the James Madison guys plus Curtis Rourke.
Yeah. And I like, you go back to what Troy Aikman said a couple of weeks ago. These guys, they don't want to get into bidding wars. That's not what they want to do. They want to support their program in a positive way, and hopefully we see a little bit more of that. But something tells me that there will always be people who want to spend a lot of money to outbid the other school for the next quarterback.
Well,
there's going to be a lot of that going on.
Let's not act like we were born yesterday. Indiana is definitely going to be in bidding wars. They're in bidding wars in the transfer portal. They didn't get the haul that they got a couple weeks ago without giving a heap of money. But the first year of it, I think that's where the misconception is for me. Power 5 schools were not knocking on the door to get Aiden Fisher to come there, or D'Angelo Pons, or even Curtis Rourke, for that matter. Now, it's different. Indiana is largely sitting at, the big kids table when it comes to having to compete on the transfer portal, and compete by all accounts very well. I mean, if you look at the transfer portal class they just signed, and whether it's the Nick Marsh kid or Josh Hoover or, the Penn State corner or the Boston College running back, so much of that, those are guys that are pretty highly sought after in the portal. Yeah.
And it'll be fun moving forward to see what they do with this national championship. And I saw a really interesting piece on your site, The Athletic, James, by Will Leach about what's next in college football. Does Indiana keep this momentum going? They keep it going? Is this new era of NIL something that's going to invite other teams like Indiana to all of a sudden jump up and compete? Is it going to incentivize, as I call the usual suspects, the Georgias, the Alabamas, and those folks to even spend more and just continue the arms race? Is it a little of all the above? I thought that was a fascinating piece. I don't know if you had a chance to read it yet.
No, I have not. I feel like I've read so many different pieces about IU, whether it's in our publication or somewhere else, but I'll add that to the list. I will say this, you all, it was pretty funny. I saw a video on Twitter yesterday of Kalen Black. I guess he didn't fly home with the team after winning the national championship. So he was on a regular flight back to Indianapolis. And so in the video, he's walking, it looks like, I don't know, to row 20 on the plane. And I'm thinking to myself, he needs to be in first class, right behind the pilot. I mean,
national champions.
Exactly.
They're just like
and
us.
It's like, all right, well, I think I got the aisle seat. Maybe I got the window. I mean, if Kalen Black is sitting by the window by choice, that's one thing. But if that's because he doesn't have the right ticket, we got to get some of that NIL money over to his flight.
He should fly the plane, right?
If he wants to.
I ain't say all that now. Look, I ain't on the plane. I love you, brother, but, I take flying a little seriously. But jokes aside, I think you might have thrown this question at Stephen Holder yesterday, Kevin, and feel free for all of you guys to weigh in. So I'll throw it back at you. Realistically, what player do you think will be a really good fit for the Colts? When I say realistically, everyone would love to have Fernando Mendoza if they are in quarterback need right now. But realistically, knowing you don't have a first-round pick, knowing Daniel Jones is probably going to be your quarterback in 2026, what other areas do you think of when they can overlap with what Indiana has?
Yeah, I'll go with Omar Cooper Jr. first. I think he's going to be a great wideout. I've said Deebo Samuel vibes, kind of what I get from him. Now, he still has to declare. We will await that. But I think you saw it even in the national title. I know statistically it wasn't some, star-studded game, but if you look at some of the catches he made and the plays he makes after the catch, I think that's where his dynamic nature really comes into play. The Elijah Surratt, Michael Pittman Jr. comp, I think, is rather obvious. James, we'll get into this debate more as the draft, inches closer, but like, do the Colts have the luxury to be drafting a wideout?
You know what I think about this though? If you retain Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman Jr. walks.
Well, that's a different animal.
Right.
Yeah.
Then, when I say walks, I mean if you cut him
right,
and you don't keep him, then I'm like, you are suddenly in the market for a wide receiver.
But if the goal is to get younger and faster on defense, and you don't have a first round,
that's why I'm getting a little nervous, man.
And you don't have a first round pick, then that comes into play. The D'Angelo Ponds discourse will be, I think one of the more interesting ones in the draft because the dude is a flat out football player, flat out. I mean, Curt Cignetti's comments, I believe Cignetti said something to the effect of, and I guess there's a little technicality in Cignetti's answer, but he said something to the effect of like, he's the best player I've ever coached that I've had for the whole time. So like Mendoza obviously doesn't fit that bill based off being a transfer. But of course, when Ponds, measures in here at Lucas Oil coming up in a month, it'll be 5'9" on a good day. And we just know how NFL teams will nitpick that to the nth degree. And, Chris Ballard, of course, is a guy that was so hesitant on, even making a waiver claim for Kenny Moore II, back in 2017. But this is where I kind of side with something that Cignetti has said so often that I think Ballard has to adopt for this draft class and really should have adopted probably in some previous drafts. Production over potential. And I feel like times Ballard's drafts have been too potential over production.
Kwity Paye is a player that comes to mind.
Kwity Paye is definitely a player that comes to mind. You go back to Kamoko Toure from one of his early drafts. Also, I think a player that kind of was in a similar bill to that. And I get that there's a balance, and you probably want to try and achieve both of those things in an ideal world.
Yeah.
Because all college players that produce at a high level don't just walk into the NFL and mirror that. I totally understand that. It's a different game. But to me, I'd be stunned if Ponds failed in the NFL. And I just think the Ballard draft focus for 2026 has got to be a little bit more rooted in the Cignetti production over potential. You need guys to come in here and play from day one. And I know it's a difficult ask from a draft class that won't have a first-round pick, but that's the reality of where your situation is at.
Yeah. I like what you guys are saying about all those guys. One guy that's really interesting to me, probably a day 3 pick, but just the engine, the motor, the savvy. Is there an NFL future for a guy like Fisher?
Absolutely.
I could see him working his way up a depth chart somewhere and just being a stud, dependable player for someone for a long time.
Well, you don't need to convince me much to say the Colts need to upgrade at linebacker. So is he someone that gets a look from here and elsewhere? Potentially, for sure. I think he's someone that raised his stock a ton, and that's one of the benefits of playing on such big stages and big moments is that, I mean, what scout isn't watching the national championship? Who isn't watching the Rose Bowl? And so when you have those performances like that, it helps you out a ton. And he's someone that I definitely think could play on Sundays.
Yeah. And look, you never know if the local kid is going to go to the local team. There's so many things that have to fall just right and things of that nature. But would it be shocking if the Colts ended up with an Indiana player on their roster next year to you, Kevin?
I mean, no. If you got 10 Indiana guys going to be drafted, obviously that's a decent little chunk of that. So, what do you guys make of Terry Pagula's comments yesterday? Bills owner there, and in particular the Keon Coleman comment there.
Do you want to explain that for those listening?
Yeah, thank you, James. So Terry Pagula, probably one of the newer owners in the NFL. A Bills owner there. We obviously have seen them dump Sean McDermott, retain their GM, Brandon Beane. And yesterday, in their end of the season, I guess, presser and touching on the McDermott situation, it was both of them up at the table there. And I believe he interjected.
Yes, Brandon Beane got asked a question about their lack of wide receiver help.
Right. Coleman, a second-round pick,
yes,
has not worked out so far. Obviously, if you watch the Bills, I think their wide receiver position has been an issue. And so Pagula just interjected and basically said, I'm going to defend my GM here. That was a draft pick that was pushed more from the coaching staff than it was from the GM. So if you are Keon Coleman waking up in the Caribbean and all of a sudden catching that stray, what would be your thoughts? Do we appreciate the candor?
Well, I go back and forth with it because on one hand, us in the media, we're like, oh man, they never say anything real at these press conferences. Like, for example, when Chris Ballard says that Zaire Franklin and Jermaine Pratt had played pretty good football in 2025, all of us objectively were thinking, no, they did not. Not pretty good football. No, especially for your second team All-Pro in 2024, Zaire Franklin. He did not play pretty good football this past year. That's just objectively not true. But he says that because you want to save face, and obviously it's probably the more tact thing to do. So on one hand, I'm like, like you never get real answers. And on the other hand, I'm like, boy, that's pretty bogus. So I kind of welcome it as someone who's in the media. You want real answers. You want real feelings. There you have it. But the problem with that is then all these videos surface. You know, like the Colts do like their behind the scenes draft videos, Jeff, and they have those for the Bills, and Brandon Beane is in the video.
He's all in.
Basically saying he picked the dude. And, he takes credit for it. And he was talking about how I'm glad he ran kind of slow with a slow 40-yard dash because I want him. So that was a terrible look for an owner. I don't know how you're a Bills fan and you feel more optimistic after hearing that than before. And honestly, I'll say it right now because it's not some hot take. When they don't make the Super Bowl next year, because it's very hard to do, and I don't believe they will, it's going to be hilarious to revisit these conversations and then say, well, whose fault is it now?
And what are you doing with Keon Coleman anyway? Because now he's under contract for like 2 more years. I mean, is he in the Bills uniform next year? I wouldn't think so with that kind of...
That's a terrible look. But then the other thing, to your point, Mark, which is crazy to me, and I had to go back and remember this from the game. Granted, he has done himself no favors. I mean, being late to meetings reportedly and missing stuff and being a healthy scratch because you can't seem to be an adult, that's a bad look for you. But let's keep in mind, he caught a touchdown in that playoff game. So, I mean, you guys act like he did nothing all year, which, again, he might have been struggling all year, but in the biggest game of the year, he got in the end zone. And then all of a sudden, this guy, that you chose, it isn't our fault. And then I think the owner tried to later clarify, well, I wasn't talking about Sean McDermott. I was talking about the entire coaching staff. That's a shot at the coach that you just fired and the player who's still on your roster. So the Bills are a mess, and I think it's hilarious. And the last thing I'll say about this is I joke about this all the time here on these airwaves that bandwagon fans are geniuses, but I truly mean this. Nothing will make me jump ship more than horrible ownership. I'm not giving 20 years of my life to any team with a stupid owner. I'm sorry.
If the Bills are a mess and they've won 6 straight years with a playoff win, then what are the Colts?
I think we've discussed that.
I probably can't say these words on these airwaves, Kevin. I had to wash my mouth out with soap.
Now, I will say, just for the sake of argument and the sake of the discussion, when they were 7-1, we were digging everything. But then it fell apart, as it tends to do in the second half of the season. And it was at the end of the year, whether it was because of injury or anything else, it was a different verse, but the same story.
There was a comment Pagula made yesterday, maybe we can get into it a little bit later, that I do find interesting in comparing it to the Colts' current situation. It's something we haven't really discussed in great detail. I think we're almost resigned to it at this point, but it's probably worth bringing up again. There could be some finality of it. So, yeah, we'll get to that. I think here maybe in the 8 o'clock hour, but certainly it was one of the wilder press conferences I've seen. I mean, I watched a good chunk of it. Like, he interjected at one point about the bad call in the game, and I'm like, wait a minute, did the bad call impact Sean McDermott or did it not? And I'm kind of torn.
He said that Josh Allen's tears. I saw my quarterback crying, and that compelled me to make a move.
I'm kind of
torn. The quarterback who had 4 turnovers, by the way, that's not Sean McDermott's fault.
How I would feel if I were a Bills fan. Like,
they're not happy based on social media.
Right. Like, you could not be happy with Terry Pagula's comments yesterday, but do you respect your franchise trying to strive for more?
When I said they weren't happy, what I've read on social media, a lot of it from Bills fans, they're just mad at first of all, they don't agree with McDermott getting fired necessarily. They think the wrong guy got fired. And they're just not happy with their team
Brandon
in general.
Beane fired?
Yeah, most of them did.
So they want the GM gone, but the head coach retained?
That's the feeling I was getting just based on all the things that I've seen and read on social media over the last few days.
It's kind of a similar vibe to here in Indianapolis, where there's people who are like, okay, maybe the coach here, Shane Steichen, isn't the guy. but it isn't nearly as much vitriol for him as it is the GM.
Yeah, I saw a lot of yesterday people saying the problem was sitting at that podium, those two guys.
Brandon B got a promotion out of this.
I was going to say, he didn't get fired. He got promoted.
Well,
he got a pay boost.
What the heck?
It is another reminder, and boy, we could probably play that here in our own local market, but make sure that your boss likes you, right? Jeff, I love you, man. You look great. Have I ever said how good looking you are and smart you are? And do you need a back scratch during the break?
Do you not read the comments people send us every day? You might be the only guy.
Hey, I am here to. I was about to say something. I was probably.
I was about to say, well, look a little steamy in here.
Yeah, I know.
We got a special treat for you later on tonight. The Indiana-Miami football game. We'll replay that at 7 p.m. this evening. If you didn't get a chance to listen to Don Fisher the first time around, this is a fantastic opportunity for you to do that. Thanks to some stuff we've worked out with Learfield Communications. We're going to do it again on Sunday afternoon at 1. If you have another opportunity
stuck in the
there,
snow, you can listen.
That's right. And we will give you live coverage of the celebration at Memorial Stadium at 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, which, if you are cold averse, might be the way to celebrate that. Just listen to it on the radio, or I think you can watch it on Big Ten Network too, can't you, Kevin? Didn't I see that yesterday? I don't know if you saw that or not, but a lot of things to look forward to, and just, again, bathe in the celebration of the Indiana University football team and its national championship. We'll continue in a moment at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Happy Thursday morning. Welcome into the Fan Morning Show with James Boyd, Kevin Bowen. I'm Jeff Rickard, Mark Dykton over there. Still, I know that was a loss, but you still are feeling Caleb Williams vibes all day long over there, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure you guys look good with the lighting. Do we look good here? I can see James. What do you say you usually are? James, teeth and eyes? Is that what you say?
Teeth and eyes, brother. Teeth and eyes. But I will say,
I think we've moved past this. I blinded you guys in the break.
I'm looking at the YouTube stream myself. I'm still black, but just not as black. So that's good. Progress.
That's good. Progress. We're making progress.
We are making huge progress. We continue to put this studio together one day at a time, apparently, but we're getting there. And we're happy to have the light today. We're happy to have you, James Boyd, and we're happy to be celebrating the Indiana Hoosiers' victory in the national championship game for at least another day, and it'll go on and on and on. I had mentioned a moment ago, if you want to get your hands, eyes, I don't know if you get your hands on it, but your eyes on the trophy, it's going to be down in Bloomington today, 4 to 7 at the Walmart down there. At what is the address is 3315 Indiana 45 between 4 and 7. If you want to continue that celebration, as I mentioned a couple of times this morning, we'll replay the national championship game tonight beginning at 7 p.m. And we'll have live coverage of the celebration from Memorial Stadium on Saturday afternoon at 1.
Can I add that to my cart, by the way, at Walmart? Like if I just
you
go
might be
there,
able to. You can add
pears, get some mozzarella sticks. I'm gonna add the trophy here.
Stepping over kids that lost their fantasy football league and have to spend 24 hours in the Walmart.
The self-checkout's not ringing this up.
It's fantastic stuff. I saw a lot of Indiana, the little flags that you put onto your car yesterday. I saw those quite a bit. I saw all kinds of, in the last couple of days, Indiana garb and gear everywhere. People are excited. They're fired up, and it's just fun to watch the continuing adventures, Kevin, of Fernando Mendoza, going on LinkedIn yesterday to post the 3 business things he learned about his run to the national championship.
Yeah, James Boyd, I think I've gone to Twitter a time or two to see what someone I cover is up to, maybe Instagram, maybe a stress there on TikTok. Certainly, I've listened to a Zaire Franklin podcast or two, but I don't know if I've ever gone to LinkedIn.
I'm telling you, man.
But Raiders beat writers, beware. If you want Fernando Mendoza, dirt, you're going to LinkedIn yesterday. The 3 keys. Here's what winning a national championship taught me about. Did you guys laugh at when he said B2B sales?
Yes. Yes.
Kidding, kind of, which I guess nowadays college football is kind of business to business, is it not?
Hey, he's an honest young man. Are you questioning his integrity?
Number 1, believe in yourself. 4 years ago, as a 2-star recruit playing high school football, 30 minutes from Hard Rock Stadium with a dream of playing at the highest level. 2 days ago, I became a national champion in that same stadium, surrounded by the family who never stopped believing in me. Number 2, take the risk. When it's 4th and 5 at the 12-yard line, you go for it. And number 3, remember who got you there. Thank you to my teammates, coaches, support staff, professors. How about that? Shout out to my colleagues down there in Bloomington and everyone behind the scenes who helped make this happen.
Everybody going to be following him now on LinkedIn, you think?
God bless him.
I endorsed him for PowerPoint and effort yesterday. Those are the 2 things that I endorsed him for.
I was reading through the comments, and I won't expose any of those here on the air, but boy, as I told you earlier, it is so performative. I should write one. Fernando Mendoza, it was awesome to see you stand before the sun and just attack the day and seize the moment.
Is there anything better than LinkedIn language?
I mean, my goodness. I think I changed my profile picture actually to the one I have on Twitter where it's me on a hockey sled back when I was in college because I was like, I don't want to be the guy, mainly because I don't have a real job, as you say, Kevin, with the suit and the tie when I never wear that. I think I wore a suit twice in 2026. So, yeah, the picture I have up there is more of who I am.
Here is the profile for Fernando Mendoza. You ready to hire this kid? Process-driven and detail-oriented leader studying business administration at Indiana University's Kelley School of Business after graduating from UC Berkeley in 3 years. As a quarterback for Indiana football, I apply a strong foundation in leadership, time management, and communication to excel both on and off the field. I'm passionate about leveraging my background in business, real estate, and finance to build a career that combines strategic thinking, teamwork, and community impact. I take pride in fostering positive team culture, adapting to new environments, and driving success through preparation, accountability, and collaboration. 112,000 followers now on LinkedIn. There's only one job he wants right now, though, right?
Yeah, and it comes with about $50 million guaranteed. So shout out to the Las Vegas Raiders. Boy, I think that's a franchise. Talk about bad ownership and bad organizational structure. That is one of them. I think when you go to the Raiders, that's where your career goes to die. So if there's anybody who can resurrect the Raiders, it is the guy who resurrected Indiana.
He's got his idol there.
Tom Brady.
That is true. But I have my fears about that. I told you, I don't think that great players become great team builders and great owners and great structure.
Elway with the Broncos had some success.
John
Lynch,
two Super Bowls.
49ers
give me a couple more because,
John Lynch.
boy,
some success right now.
I got to go back a few years for this. Man.
Well, first of all, it's hard to even break into that level, I think, for a lot of guys.
That is true. I'm probably thinking more basketball. I just think of Michael Jordan and the Wizards, and he was god-awful.
By the way, I feel like something we obviously, understandably, haven't really talked about the championship weekend coming up here as we get Seahawks and Rams. I saw the Broncos are the biggest home underdog in championship weekend history with Jarrett Stidham starting. They are a 5-point underdog to the Patriots. You think we're done with the building of outdoor stadiums?
Yes.
You can just make a lot more money with a lot more events, I think.
Yeah,
with
it doesn't make any
closes up.
financial sense to build an indoor stadium or an outdoor stadium anymore.
That kind of bums me out.
But I think, don't you like the fact like a Lucas Oil, you can be an outdoor stadium?
Totally get it. Well, let's not get into
Well,
comparing Lucas Oil as an outdoor stadium here to what. I mean, look at the divisional sites we just had. Did you see the weather in Seattle? Did you see the weather in Chicago? Denver was, I guess, the only good weather. I mean,
still outdoors though.
Football weather this weekend. Where are we going to get it? Seattle and Denver, right? Those days are gone. I mean, we're in the next Mark's girls, my kids, James Boyd, your little runts that'll be running around one day. They will grow up with an NFL that it is controlled climate for all 32 sites.
Well, I mean, think of where it's come from, though. Back as late as the early 80s, you used to have West Coast teams like San Francisco, Oakland, San Diego, even Cleveland for a while, playing the early September games with dirt infield on part of the football field.
Yeah, I feel like the Raiders had that like 4 years ago. Still happening. Again, I totally get it. I want to be very clear. I understand the financial element of being able to be a 12-month out-of-the-year venue. Obviously,
like, hey, capitalistic society, man. Money talks.
Benefited Lucas Oil, but the football purists out there, I don't know, Mark, you want a little dome there in Hammond, Indiana, Gary, Indiana, or are you guys still football weather?
I wouldn't mind a retractable roof. I think it would get more use than
Okay, so hear me out.
But
you have a retractable roof. The Bears make the NFC Championship game. It's 30 degrees outside.
Open it.
Are they really going to open it?
I would like to think that they would say this is an advantage for us to open the way. Like, yeah, open it up.
Hell no,
I'm
they
not
ain't
going
open
there,
it.
Mark. I can't do that.
We're
Close it
soft,
up when Taylor
man.
Swift-
It's 2025.
Close it up when Taylor Swift
2026,
comes
hell.
to town. Open it up when we're playing the Rams again.
Don't you miss the tweets of Jim Irsay saying what the status of the roof was going to be on game day, the first thing in the morning?
And to be honest, I always thought those were kind of pointless once we got to like late October. Of course it's going to be closed. It's freezing. So, I mean,
I appreciate the consistency.
I get
You
the
never
point,
know.
but no, we'll get to a point in about 20 years where there's just no more outdoor games outside of like Lambeau. I think the day we see Lambeau get a dome is like the day the world will end.
Cleveland.
Cleveland's supposed to be building a dome.
Buffalo. What's Buffalo? Buffalo's
Buffalo's
keeping it
got
outdoors,
a
right?
canopy. It says it's open air
Yeah.
with a canopy.
What does that mean? A canopy.
I know it says an open air canopy with heating accessible. I'm like, what does that mean? I don't understand. It says an open air stadium with a large canopy and advanced heating set to open in 2026.
Dear
I told you my hot take about Buffalo.
Sounds like
right?
a resort in like northern Canada. It's trying to get you to come there.
It says the Jaguars Stadium is also going to have a canopy roof.
Well,
and that'll
that's
open
in
2028.
Florida. We can't be talking about Florida.
Well,
These canopies are
one
the
thing
new
I'll
thing,
say about
apparently.
Jacksonville, which is Joey Erickson's favorite place to travel. I'm laughing because it is not. Well, when they build a new stadium, let's hope it's not leaky like the last one. Every time I go down there, you all, and I know people don't care about this, they don't cover the games, but just imagine going to a different office for a day and the roof is leaking every time you go there. And that's a real thing that happens there. There's towels
And you're
that
not
line.
describing the Colts' performance down there. to be
No.
clear?
I guess it matches up pretty well. But there's a literal trash can in the middle of the press box that catches the water because it leaks down there. So it's about time they build something new.
I also want to say that as recently, I don't know, Mark, what would you say 20, 25 years ago before field turf completely erased all the AstroTurf? I remember summertime, a lot of baseball games that had AstroTurf, they'd go down and the on-field temperature would be like 125, 130 degrees. You can have it on the other side. Do you remember those days, Mark?
Oh, yeah.
Man. So
that looked like the worst pain of all time. Landing on AstroTurf with like concrete underneath you, that looked like hell.
That sound horrible.
So we have come a long way.
They
and
painted the concrete light green.
Yes.
That's pretty much what it is.
And you cannot convince me, and you're a Reds guy, that the decade plus of Ken Griffey Jr. playing on that god-awful concrete AstroTurf at the Kingdome didn't lead to all of his late career leg and back problems. You'll never convince me that wasn't the problem.
Some truth to that.
So I have a question when it comes to the Colts, who do play on turf, I believe. Looking at their free agent class, how many of these guys are being brought back? I'll list some of them off. You got Braid Smith, Daniel Jones, Samson Ebukam, Kwity Paye, Mo Cox, Danny Pinter, Alec Pierce, Nick Cross. Not many other big names on here, but like I've thought about usually like the Colts' way of doing things is to keep their guys. How many of these guys are worth keeping or even trying to keep?
Well, Jones and Pierce, 1 and 1A.
Nick Cross? Is that the next guy?
I don't know if I'm standing on a table for anybody else. Cross, I think, is one of the more
that's an interesting one,
difficult ones to gauge, James. I think he has become a very quality player. You thought when you drafted him it would kind of take a little while, and it did. But can you pay two safeties big money? That would be the biggest question I would have. I don't know if you can. Now, having said that, James, if I said to you, who's the starting safety next year if Nick Cross walks?
Hunter Wohler? I don't know.
Hunter Wohler off a Liz Frank injury. He's never played a snap in the NFL.
Who we liked, but we've never seen him play.
Right. I mean, it'd be totally unfair to hand him starting keys like that. So that's where, again, I can get torn on the Nick Cross thing. Also, let's think about the safety market. Remember Julian Blackmon's free agency a few years ago? He was very upset that the market did not merit much of a deal for him. He actually came back to the Colts, 3 or 4 weeks into free agency?
Yeah.
So is the safety market going to look at Nick Cross in the same light? He's more of a box safety, and does that diminish a little bit of his value as well? So I think Cross is a difficult one. There's a couple dudes I'd bring back on vet minimums. Are you bringing back Jermaine Pratt at linebacker?
Possibly. He was on a minimum deal.
He's going to make
this season.
Just under the market value, according to Spotrac, is about $2.8 million for him.
Would you rather have Jermaine Pratt at $2.8 million or Zaire Franklin at whatever he's making, 10?
Pratt at that
Pratt.
price. Yeah.
Well, I've already talked about how.
Now, is that a conversation the Colts should have? If you're trying to create more money, younger, faster, there's really not much of a difference between Pratt and Franklin.
No.
So,
and Pratt actually played for Lou Anarumo, assuming that he stays your defensive coordinator.
Right.
There's some rapport there as well.
You have to create some cap space at probably multiple places. Michael Pittman Jr. is the obvious one we keep on coming back to.
Yeah.
With the $29 million cap hit. But, I think those are some of the conversations that they have to have.
They need to call the Dodgers and figure this out. Call the Dodgers, figure out how to move a couple zeros in different places, and
Dodgers don't care. They'll pay whatever tax. We're just going to sign whatever we want.
Can you defer some of these payments to make sure you have enough cap space? But yeah, jokes aside, unlike the Dodgers, they got to get creative, and I think that is the hardest part,
which they haven't really done in the Ballard era.
I know, but again,
he was a lot different last year.
Asking him,
but this is different.
Yeah,
different.
It's different.
That was spending money they had just on outside of the building guys. Right. You're asking Chris Ballard to say you handed these dudes notable second and or third contracts. Now you have to admit it's time to let them go.
Right.
With years, with money still left in their deal. That is not something he's done at all. I mean, James, we could do this exercise one day. Let's think of the 9-year history of Ballard and non-quarterbacks he's literally let go.
The list is not as long as you would think.
I mean, it is a short list of, guys that at the very least you have to restructure.
Is he feeling a higher sense of urgency, Kevin?
Well, you know what? I did ask that question. Is it playoffs or bust? Carly Ursay-Gordon said that the urgency was higher than last year when I kind of pressed her on that. Like, what do you mean it's higher than before? Wasn't it high last year? And she said, well, it's higher than last year. All of that, I think, means a bunch of nothing. But the one tangible part of it is he doesn't have an extension. And for the first time in his 10-year tenure now, he's going into the final year of his contract. So does that put some extra fire under your butt? I don't know. But my overall thinking is whatever you do, whether it's via the draft or free agency, you have to put yourself into contention. Otherwise, it is a complete waste of time. And I know it's hard to do. And honestly, watching the playoffs, I was thinking to myself, boy, the Colts might not have the quarterback, and they sure don't have the defense. Watching some of these teams perform. But how do you get there? How do you close the gap? Because if you're telling the fan base and the core players of this team, probably more importantly, guys like Quentin Nelson and others, oh, we're getting there. Well, brother, we feel like the Israelites. We've been out here for 40 years in the wilderness. Get me there. I want to see something.
Man, not have Israelites on the
waiting on some manna from the sky.
818, 816 bingo card here. That was really good.
I paid
James,
a little bit of attention in Sunday school.
James waiting for somebody to deliver him this
That's
year.
why you need the outdoor stadium. The manna will fall from the sky, man. The Colts got to open that roof
there you
for
go.
man.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Well, if it gets down to that, you just have perfect weather all the time, doesn't
You
it?
just go to church on a Sunday, snowy Sunday here in Indy, and you got James Boyd and Kevin Bowen preaching.
Oh, man. Take a look, though, at the 4 teams that are left in the NFL playoffs. New England, Denver, and obviously the Seattle Seahawks and Los Angeles Rams. Didn't it feel like this year, right now, like this was as wide open as the NFL has been in a long, long time?
Yeah, and that's what makes it sting for the Colts, because as much as I've criticized them, I do think the trajectory of your season is totally different if you have a healthy Daniel Jones. And I'm not just saying keeping his Achilles intact. I mean the broken leg as well. If he has his lower extremities hold up, I do think that they're a playoff team. And once you get in, the weird part about the NFL is that you really do kind of have a chance if you got somewhat of a pretty good quarterback, because it can go either way on any Sunday. When we've seen some of these games, yes, the Rams are in the NFC Championship, but they were a drive away from not being past the first round against the Panthers. So it is disappointing, but hey, man, we can't live in what ifs. Got to live in what is.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny. I thought it was wide open entering the playoffs, and then look who's left. 1 seed, 2 seed, and everybody thought the Rams were the pick.
Yeah, that's true.
It is kind of wild how it's unfolded. Now, the games have been terrific, James, to your point. They could have lost in Carolina, and, you look at some of these other games, Denver easily could have lost as well. Seattle obviously was absolutely dominant, but, it could have changed in some other areas. I did see the Rams, if they do make the Super Bowl, I believe the NFL sent this out, they'll be the second team in the last 15 years, the non-division winner to make the Super Bowl. The only other team in the last 15 years to have done that would be the Tom Brady-led Bucs. So, again, the road games for them, Carolina, Chicago, and then we'll see if they can get it done, Seattle. It's eerie how similar the stats are with the first 2 meetings of Rams and Seahawks. It's like right there, neck and neck. So, looking forward to that one. Again, that'll be I believe that's the first game. Is that correct on Sunday? That's second. Okay, so AFC will start as 5-point underdog on that with Jarrett Stidham, biggest home underdog in championship history. And then, thank you, Mark, Rams, Seahawks to follow.
So right now the Seahawks are plus 150, the Rams are plus 210, Patriots are plus 240, and the Broncos are now plus 1,200. Bo Nix having a little bit of an impact on that, or the absence of Bo Nix.
Yeah, Jarrett Stidham, you're up. How about that?
He has a chance to do the funniest thing ever, right? Last time the Patriots played a championship-type game against a backup, how'd that work out?
Did not go well. Boy, you couldn't tell me nothing if I was Nick Foles. I outdueled the GOAT in the biggest game of my life. Built a statue, and he has one.
All right, Mark, let's check it down and let you know what you need to know today.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here. The Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships with NCAA tournament bids on the line. March 8th through 10th. Tickets and more at horizonleague.com/Indy.
Indiana Pacers losing in Boston last night, 119-104. They're on a 3-game losing skid. Not the fault of Pascal Siakam, Kevin. He had 32 points, 10 rebounds, and James, you had mentioned this earlier this morning. It sometimes looks like it's a 1-on-5, just Pascal against whoever they're playing.
Yeah, I thought Jarris was pretty good offensively last night as well. Defensively, maybe not so much, but par for the course for these Pacers who are struggling this year.
Walker did score 19 points, but Jaylen Brown, the Celtics superstar, had 30 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. They were tied at 18 at one point, KB, and then the Celtics ripped off a 12-2 run to close the first quarter, and it never really got closer than 7 the rest of the way.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Watching that last night, the prevailing thought I had was, when do you put Pascal Siakam in bubble wrap? Hate that I'm saying that.
Pascal ain't going to sit out.
Hate that I'm saying that on January 22nd, but boy, that's the thought I had last night, man. Give him all the bonuses that he's already earned. Tell him,
see you next
get that
year.
Wardrobe and street clothes ready for the last 30 games of the season.
You go help Tyrese rehab. Let's go.
Well, there's a lot of people that unfortunately are wearing street clothes there for the Pacers.
All right, they'll play at Oklahoma City tomorrow night. You'll hear that game here on The Fan, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. The celebrations continue for the Indiana Hoosiers, and they just keep making the rounds. And like I said, I can't wait. It's got to be sometime soon before we see Fernando Mendoza on a late-night TV talk show, isn't it, James?
Well, you know me. My bid is to get him on Good Morning America so my grandmother can see him.
That'd be good, too.
Get him on The View.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, he probably would rather be on Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick than anything.
That is true.
We'll celebrate further with the Hoosiers tonight. Beginning at 7 p.m., we will replay the radio broadcast of Don Fisher and Buck and John Herrick as they call the national championship game. If you missed it on Monday night, we'll do it tonight, and we'll do it again on Sunday afternoon at 1, Saturday afternoon at 1, Kevin. We will have live coverage of that celebration down in Bloomington, and it might be pretty. Bundle up if you're going down there. It's going to be pretty cold.
So is this thing still happening?
Bring a shovel, too.
I have not heard anything otherwise.
Yeah, weather looks a hair dicey here, and I get, you got guys going to play all-star games and all that, and it's kind of difficult to figure out when you can schedule something of this nature. But yeah, weather looking a little ugly here Saturday into Sunday.
You were mentioning Indiana business and sports. They collide every year at the NFL Combine. And there was an announcement yesterday, James, that the Combine is going to stick around for another 2-year extension here at Lucas Oil Stadium in the Convention Center.
Yep, gonna stay here through 2028. That's the right decision. Talking to anybody associated with the Combine outside of the owners who always want more money, the people love it. And people, I mean, prospects, their agents, NFL GMs, coaches, executives, etc. It just makes it easy on everybody when it's in Indianapolis. And to use an HGTV term, shout out to my mom, walkability. It's very good with the walkability downtown.
All right. North Carolina beat Notre Dame in college basketball last night, 91-69. And diehard Notre Dame basketball fan Kevin Bowen, you were actually watching Carolina for a different reason than just cheering on Notre Dame last night, right?
You don't want to get into the analysis of Notre Dame's individual players from last night?
Or their 5 straight losses?
That Cal referee broke us.
But the North Carolina player that you're now interested in saying?
Caleb Williams, Mark. How many times am I going to say that today?
Boy.
Is that the 5th time I've said that?
This is like when the Colts signed Javarius Ward and Cam Bynum, and I kept calling either or Cam Ward.
I know. I've noticed I've done that a couple times too. Caleb Wilson, very good at basketball. 6'9".
Damn act together.
Skilled. Yes, thank you, Jerry.
Harsh.
Very skilled and best rebounder in the ACC. I was impressed by his passing last night. So now I'm starting to see why the NBA draft pundits have him very, very high on the list. So I know we've talked a lot about AJ Debance from BYU and Darren Peterson from Kansas, but Caleb Wilson has got some skill.
All right, tomorrow night, Butler on a 2-game winning streak will be hosting Marquette. Later start than normal, 7:30 airtime, 8 o'clock tip over on Fuego, 92.7 FM. Indiana will play Rutgers tomorrow night at 6 p.m. On Saturday, Illinois, James, at Purdue, 3 p.m. tip-off there. You'll be enjoying that from the comfort of your own home, though, correct?
Absolutely. Weather's supposed to not be so great this weekend, but looking forward to that matchup.
Boston College and Notre Dame at 6 p.m. That seems like a good opportunity to snap that 5-game losing streak.
We call that a must-win.
All right. Thad Matta will join us, the head coach of the Butler Bulldogs, next as we continue right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Good morning. Talking some college basketball today at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd. I'm Jeff Rickard. Mark Dykton on the ones and twos this morning. Quick on that buzzer, though, man. Always quick on the buzzer.
Well, hey, Kevin's made a couple errors today about the same player like 8 times.
I'm C.J. Stroud in Foxborough.
C.J. Stroud or Josh Allen?
Well, yeah, I guess you go with either.
I tell you what, who's not been fumbling the ball lately, the Butler Bulldogs. They've won a couple of games in a row now. They go back home tomorrow night, and here to tell us a little bit more about how things are going is the head coach of the Bulldogs, Thad Matta, who joins us every Thursday morning here on the Fan Morning Show. Coach, good to talk to you after a couple of straight wins. You got to be in a pretty good mood this week.
Yeah. Things are good. We like you said, we've got a couple wins, but you guys know how it is in the Big East, in college basketball, any league. I don't care what division you're in. I mean, anytime you get wins, it's huge for you. And I thought the Seton Hall game Saturday was a big win for us, just in terms of being able to sustain the lead. Seton Hall had been a team that has shown to make these unbelievable comebacks all season long, and we held them off. And then the DePaul game Tuesday night, kind of the same thing. We're down at halftime by a couple points and come out and go on a heck of a run, and they able to finish it off. And like I said, I keep telling our team, I don't think we've played our best basketball yet. We've got to, keep building, and a lot of that's just on us of having our minds right to play our collectively the best that we can.
Coach, came out to practice, I think, in October, and I remember walking out of Hinkle that afternoon thinking to myself, wow, Michael Ajayi is a grown man, and that dude might be all Big East first team. I'm not going to lie. He maybe has been better than I even thought he would be. I know you said the other night, sick as a dog, weren't sure if he was going to play in the game. How would you kind of assess what you thought you were getting in him out of the transfer portal, and then what he's provided you?
Yeah, I tell you what a tremendous talent. I think this. I think he's one of the best all-around college players in the country. I really do. What he does for us offensively, what he does for us defensively, it is amazing. And he's one of those guys that, and I've always liked to coach these type of guys that have a motor. His motor never stops. Tuesday, find out he's sick and didn't know if he was going to be able to play. And sure enough, he did. And it's funny because I don't think to the common eye they could see. I knew he wasn't all the way there. But you can never tell it by watching him. I mean, the kid cares so much and does so much. And, we're lucky to have him. I thought he was going to be a really good player for us when we got him in the portal. He's exceeded my expectations. And the good thing about him is he'll be in the gym here in a few minutes, wanting to work on his game, and he never stops.
That I know when you talk about your program, defense is always one of the pillars, as is most coaches in the country. But when you look at that DePaul performance, I'm sure there's some things you want to clean up. But when you have 3 first-half shot clock violations that you forced, what do you think that says about the connectiveness of your team on that side of the ball?
I thought we were good defensively. I didn't know until I went back and watched the game. We forced them to make some really tough shots, especially in the first half. And they were, to their credit, they were going in. But defense, as you said, that is something you want to always hang your hat on. And it's been a little problematic for us at times throughout the season this year. We've given up a lot of points, but we're playing faster. We've slowed down a little bit now, and I think that's helping our defense some. But I know that's, we got Marquette Friday night, and they play as fast as anybody that we've played this year. So, getting back in our defense set is going to be huge for us.
Again, that's the voice of Thad Matta, 2 in a row for the Bulldogs. As he said, Marquette coming up, the checkered out inside of Hinkle, a little racing theme inside of that building coming up tomorrow night at 8. Coach, right now the talk of college basketball seems to be nationally rooted so much around players that have signed professional contracts and yet going back to college and I guess having eligibility. part of me is like, boy, could you call Greg Oden or Mike Conley or, Gordon Hayward and
Right.
dial them back up? Do you have an opinion on that happening right now across college basketball?
I don't know if you can truly call it college basketball anymore. Nothing surprises me anymore, to be honest with you. And I don't know where they draw the line and what's right and what's wrong anymore. But I'm as old school as they come, and just from the standpoint of coming and getting your degree, and back it was kind of an anomaly if guys left early, and now why not do it? And I know this is coaches. I mean, I don't fault the coaches. We got to stay on our toes and be creative of how we can get players nowadays, and it's not like it used to be. I think when I was at Ohio State, we had 3 freshmen in high school commit to us. And those days are gone in terms of the recruitment, getting to know the families, the kids, and now it's amazing the channels you have to go through in the recruiting process.
If there was one guardrail you could establish, portal, NIL, eligibility, anything, if there's one guardrail you could establish tomorrow in college basketball, what would that be?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I just I don't know if I can answer that honestly, because there's a lot of things, and I'm not as in tune with. I'm sort of like, hey, whatever happens. You deal with it, because I have no say-so in it. But I wish we could get the purity of the game back a little bit. Like I said, I think those days are gone. In terms of it's like when Tony Bennett called me and told me he was thinking about retiring, and he asked me a lot of questions about retirement. And I told him, I said, look, you won one of the last national championships when it was pure, when it was the right way, before all this stuff, NIL and no sit out and transfer and that sort of thing. So I think the older ones are probably a little bit more of what college was meant to be.
We're talking to Thad Matta, head basketball coach at Butler University, brought to you every week by Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus, in business since the year before Hinkle Fieldhouse opened in 1927. We'll tell you more about that in a second. Coach, we know you love football. We know you pay attention to what's going on. What were you thinking Monday night? As a coach of college sports, what are you thinking when the gun goes off and Indiana is celebrating Monday night?
Honestly, I could not be happier, because I grew up as a kid an Indiana fan, and obviously Bob Knight and all that stuff, and just seeing all the trials and tribulations the football program had gone through. And I don't know how you guys felt, but that was they were not going to lose that game. It was almost like destiny. It was almost like the Pacers last year. If Therese one got hurt, I think they were going to beat Oklahoma City. Just everything was right throughout the end of the season, and and that's how it was for Indiana. Really the last 2 years, if you think about it, they win the close games. I don't know. It did my heart good. I'll be honest with you. And like I said, for Indiana and Scott Dolson to win the national championship is so exciting.
So I've wanted to ask this for a while, and not just to you specifically, but to coaches in general. You do the work, the preparation, you got the game plan, you go through the plays, the players know the plays, they know the plays. That call is on for 4th and 5 at the 12 the other night. But as a coach, when a player takes that play, elevates it, and does something special, what's that do for you as a head coach?
Well, I mean, I think that's the gratifying thing in coaching. When you see guys make plays and you see the preparation come into fruition right before your very eyes, and I know this. They had all the faith in him, and I've called plays for guys for game winners that I trusted. I saw it in practice. I'd seen it, in games, and the year we beat Illinois, Matt Sylvester was 1 for 5 for 3, and I called the game winner for him to win it, just because I knew he'd hit big shots before. He made big plays, and so we probably have a little more insight to what we're doing there. But no, that was 4th and 5. It was an amazing call.
But it's just an amazing run. And again, the player to elevate that, the way that he executed that, do you become for a second like the rest of us, like, oh my gosh?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was as jumping off my couch and as excited as I could be, that's for sure.
Well, Coach, thanks as always for joining us and spending a few minutes with us each week. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you play tomorrow night at home. It'll be a lot of fun.
All right, sounds good, guys. Thanks.
There he is, head coach of the Butler Bulldogs, Thad Matta, brought to you by Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus. In business since the year before Hinkle Fieldhouse opened. That's 1927. They got Lazy Boy, Indiana-made Smith Brothers Furniture, Stearns & Foster, Tempur-Pedic mattresses. Free delivery to the entire Indianapolis metro area. It's worth the drive to Columbus, by the way. ThompsonFurniture.net. On a 2-game win streak. Let's keep it going, James Boyd in the Big East there.
Yeah, they have found their footing. Shout out to Finley Bizjack. He had a big second half against DePaul. And then, as you pointed out, Kevin, Michael Ajayi looking like one of the better players in the Big East.
And one thing about them,
I'll throw in Stink Robinson.
Yeah.
They've been needing more from him with the injury to Jalen Jackson. I think the freshman has had a couple nice outings.
Yeah, those three especially stay consistent. They got a shot in every game that they're playing right now.
Former LN star passed, I believe, Greg Oden for the all-time leading scorer in that school's program history. So that's quite the feat.
All right, coming up in just a moment, we'll talk more about football, college, and the NFL as we continue on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We Grow Hair Indy. They are the gold standard when it comes to hair restoration, and they are ready to help you out today. Northwest Side, building number 2 at the Pyramids, and online, again, wegrowhairindy.com. You go online, you're going to see plenty of before and after pictures and videos they can provide you. It's a nice early introduction into exactly what the results look like. Of course, you're going to have more questions than just that. The process, and Darren Andrews and his staff are ready to provide answers to those questions. So certainly contact them today. They've got private evaluations, free evaluations, first off, private evaluations, virtual evaluations. All of that is available to you at We Grow Hair Indy. Again, online, wegrowhairindy.com. The gold standard for hair restoration, We Grow Hair Indy.
listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Getting ready for some great football coming up this weekend. We just came off a national championship run for Indiana University, and now my favorite weekend of the year. I know there's a lot more games on divisional weekend and things like that, but I've always been a big fan of championship weekend. We got an AFC championship game and an NFC championship game this year. We talked about this a little while ago, the fact that it feels more wide open than ever before. The Broncos certainly on the back end of that now that they don't have their starting quarterback. But of the two games, like, are you fascinated to see how Jarrett Stidham will do, James, or you just want to see a good old-fashioned knockdown, drag-out between the Rams and the 49ers, the Seahawks?
Well, the Rams and Seahawks game will definitely be the one that I pay attention to the most because it's the trilogy. Third matchup between two great teams. I think Jarrett Stidham's going to have a very hard time against that Patriot defense. And just to give you a couple of stats on that, because I went down a rabbit hole last week helping out some of our remote coverage of the playoffs. He's appeared in, I think, 4 games as a starter, 1 in 3, and 20 games overall with garbage time and all that. But his stats are 8 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. So that doesn't give me a lot of hope that he will have a good day.
Any hope that the Broncos defense can keep him in it, Kevin?
Am I allowed to root for a Stidham injury and hopefully he's okay and then Sam Ellinger play?
Be good for your storyline.
Just hoping he cramps up a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly. Honestly, the Stidham angle, while not as probably entertaining necessarily as the Rams Seahawks, it's such a unique one. I am really curious about that. I mean, if there's a defense out there that can do it, it's certainly Denver's. Now, the defensive performance is going to have to be, Houston Texans-like, if not more. Honestly, I got some of those vibes for a while there in the national title game on Monday. Like, the only reason Miami was still in that game for so long was because of their defense, but it was going to take a defensive score, honestly, for them to, really, really be in that game. Then their offense finally woke up there. But, I have thought about, I guess, a couple things in terms of the AFC title, how dumb the Titans are. They fired Mike Vrabel. And then Ellinger, by all accounts, he said no to the Colts opportunity late this season. And now he's one play away from potentially going in, or he is one play away from going into the game. And, if all of a sudden things break, he could be, playing here in the AFC title or even the Super Bowl, which is kind of wild.
Yeah, I think from an entertainment standpoint, though, Rams, Seahawks, right now, certainly this season, are we talking about the 2 best wide receivers in the NFL? Jackson Smith and Jigba and Puka Nacua on either side?
I would think so. Both very different players and how they get it done, but production is production, so it doesn't matter how it looks, just get it done.
And Rashid Shaheed has been a difference maker. He's been a playmaker and game breaker for the Seahawks the last 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, made a big trade to get him, and he is explosive as all get out. You saw that on the opening kickoff return there last week, and he's someone, if you miss a tackle, boy, it is night for you.
Yeah, and then the other thing about the Rams Seahawks, too, we saw Zach Charbonnet is out for the season after getting injured this past week. So all of the running load falls on Kenneth Walker at this point in time. And I don't know if he's going to play or not, Kevin, but did you see that J.K. Dobbins practiced yesterday for the Broncos after being out with an injury for most of this season?
Yeah, that would certainly help him. They're going to need to lean on any run game. James, I don't think we've had a chance to really hit on it. It happened 6 days ago, so I apologize. It's not been at the top of our mind considering the news cycle here sports-wise. But what did you make of the Colts leaving Grand Park for training camp here? They'll be here for 2026, but then sounds like at their own facility in 2027 and potentially beyond.
Yeah, so the reasoning that was given was that it's just kind of a logistical haul that takes place to get all that stuff set up out there in Westfield. So I understand it from that perspective, that perhaps it's a lot easier, and I know it's a lot easier to do it from the team facility on West 56th Street. But when they say, well, we'll still have opportunities for fans to experience training camp, what does that look like? Because we spend a lot of days at the team facility throughout the year, Kevin, and there's just not as much space. I'm not some urban planner here, but there is not this big parking lot for a lot of fans to park in. There is not this big open space for people to line up next to the fields outdoors. So I'm very curious to see what it looks like from that perspective. And I understand that some fans might be disappointed by that because it kind of was a cool experience to make that drive, even if you weren't all that local, and experience an NFL setting in that way.
Yeah, I was really bummed for a lot of fans. I mean, I think, we're fortunate to do our show out at Grand Park.
And I enjoy that, by the way.
Decent amount. Selfishly, I do enjoy it. But, James, think about how many fans we interact with that have driven.
And that's why I enjoy it.
A decent, size. I mean, we're talking people from Ohio, Michigan, Kentucky, Illinois, and, they're able to see their NFL team in a super accessible venue. I mean, Grand Park is – I'm always blown away by the NFL teams that come for the joint practice. And without question, annually, their first thought is like, this facility is unbelievable.
Right.
And, again, for those that haven't been out there, you are as close as you can imagine to watching these NFL practices, much closer than you would be if it was at a local high school with a track around the football field, kind of keeping you away. So I was bummed about that. John and I discussed it yesterday in the afternoon show. He is very adamant that this is not a logistical issue. It's a financial issue. And again, that's kind of the lingering question I think we have right now, or one of the questions we have right now. I wish I had a little bit more educated on it, how much of a financial issue is this. If I remember correctly, I want to say the contract with Grand Park was through 2028. And starting a couple of years ago, I think it was 2022, they had an 18-month out that they could give the Colts, or the Colts, I guess, could give Westfield or Grand Park. So I think that's what you're seeing here is, they have exercised that 18-month out, and here you go. I really, really hope they do several practices, whether you want to do Pike. I can remember being at Warren Central for a practice, Marion, Butler, UND. I guess Lucas Oil, but, I think it's fun when you kind of reward some of these local high school or college venues. Hopefully they will take part in that. But I guess the last thing I would add is this is the trend in the NFL. I mean, the Colts have been the outlier really for several years now and continuing to go offsite for camp. So I understand this is kind of a league-wide thing more than anything, but still I thought it was such a cool and affordable experience for many fans.
Sounds like a lot of offsite, and no one said anything. I'm just surmising here, James. Sounds like a lot of offsite parking and shuttles maybe in store for fans to attend camp there. Because to your point, where are they going to put everybody? Where are they going to put them all?
Offsite shuttle and park where? That's my whole point.
I cannot imagine fans being at West 56th Street to watch practice.
Yeah.
James, you obviously are out there a ton. Jeff, I don't know if you've been out there to the practice.
Yeah, I have. That's why I said I don't know how they're going to do it with having any fans. So.
You're going to have to go off site.
Yeah.
If you want to have 2,000-3,000 fans watch a practice,
it's tight when we watch it as a small media contingent.
Unless you open up the airport or the what are those soccer fields, the Indy Burn soccer fields next door. I'm trying to think like what you could possibly do there. So yeah, I can't imagine them.
And that's what I'm thinking.
Fans into West 56th Street.
That might be it for a while for fans, is my point. So, yeah. All right, coming up in a minute, we'll talk Pacers. They lose again last night. They got another shot at it tomorrow night. Scott Agnes covers them for the Fieldhouse Files. He joins us next at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Along with James Boyd, Kevin Bowen, Mark Dykton, I'm Jeff Rickard. Welcome into the Fan Morning Show. We're talking a little NBA basketball. The Pacers falling to the Celtics last night. They are struggling again, and it's all been almost all Pascal Siakam, and a guy who covers the team day in, day out, night in, night out, year in, year out, joins us now on the Payless Liquors hotline. That would be Scott Agnes from Fieldhouse Files. Good morning, Scott. Happy championship week to you, man. I know you were excited this week.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience these last 7 weeks following the IU football team, but especially nothing better than this past week down in Miami.
You've had an amazing run here. You've had NBA Finals, you've had WNBA semifinals, Now you've got a national championship run. These years don't happen like this very often, my man.
Not at all, no. And you can even throw in lesser things like Big Ten tournaments in town and WNBA All-Star before that NBA All-Star. So really for the last year, 16 months, it's been quite the run.
Scott, congrats, man. I know how much IU football has meant to you and your family throughout the years. You've certainly been a day one guy. What was Monday night like down there in Miami?
Yeah, first of all, I still go back. You've probably been down there, but it's just a bizarre spot. It's 10 miles from everything. And so everyone was just concerned where to go. And I mean, our tailgate spot, KB, was literally on the F1 track. So that was quite hilarious. And the group we were in there with, we were surrounded by IU fans. So it felt like the other games. And it's like, all right, this is a good indication of what it'll be, though you knew that Miami was given at least 20,000 seats as well. And so then you get in there, and it probably was 65% IU fans yet again. And it was just remarkable, the number of people and familiar faces, new and old, that I ran into as everybody just continued to kind of celebrate everything we've been through over however long you've been following the team. So that was probably my favorite thing, is seeing it through eyes of people that have been there through the thick and thin.
One more on that, Scott. Did you sleep at all, or did you just stay up to make sure that it was real?
So I'll be honest. I never really truly understood the thought of, like, it hadn't sunk in yet. This hasn't sunk in yet. I don't know why, but I was up exactly that. Family went to bed. It was 5 a.m. I was down in the lobby with a few others just trying to, make sure this was real. And yeah. So you're exactly right. I got a handful of hours, and then my flight wasn't until the next night, Tuesday night, and so tried to soak it in, and still am as much as possible.
Love that. Now, pivoting to the Pacers, Scott, we saw them take another loss last night. It does feel like Pascal Siakam has, despite the losses, a all-star campaign. What are the chances, do you think, of him actually getting that nod?
Yeah, I would say slightly above 50-50. The challenge in all this is he's going to need it from the head coaches, but they're the ones that are really watching the games. It's not a popularity contest like the starting lineup is. And so these coaches talk. We know Rick Carlisle probably talks to more coaches than anyone else as the outgoing president of the Basketball Coaches Association for the last 20 years now. He's made his case for several opponents in addition to Pascal, and show that usually comes up in all this. The challenge is getting past the record, I'm sure. But there's about 7, 8, 9, 10 different guys that he's in that cluster. Right now, I generally think he'll be one of the last in, but we'll see.
He also has a little bit of a track record, too. It's not like he hasn't done big things in the NBA prior, and that matters sometimes as they try and figure out who's going where. It's just going to be a tough season, man. You're going to try to scratch out whatever you can and look at players whenever you can. But, what does the rest of January and February look like for this Pacers team?
Yeah, I think it's just trying to see more growth every single game. It's trying to be more consistent. The challenge has just been the same things reappearing every single game and becoming season-long themes, whether it's giving up a couple big runs throughout games. Like last night, it was that second quarter that was spelled doom for them ultimately. They had a better second half, but by then it was too much to overcover. So I'm looking at guys getting healthy. I'm looking at individual development like Walker. Scoring-wise was really good last night. They tried some different things on who he was guarding and things like that. Furphy, we continue to see sharp things. He remains in the starting lineup. And then what are they doing at the center spot? I think that's the number one question beyond health that they will have to answer for now and especially for next season.
Scott, you might have just answered it there. And again, Scott Agnes, Fieldhouse Files, where you can find his work as we talk to you on this Thursday morning. It's 2 weeks out from the trade deadline. Would Benedict Matherin's situation be 1 on the curiosity list and then center be 2? Anything else I'm missing here in regards to the trade deadline, or is that kind of where you're looking here in the next 2 weeks?
No, that really sounds about right there. You can just, excuse the pun, but you can just see the Pacers' issues at the center of it is literally that center spot. And we kind of expected that going into the season before health took the overwhelming theme to this season, but you got to figure that out. And then, which I'm sure they have at this point, is what's their approach? How much are they willing to spend potentially on Benedict Mathurin, who's on a contract year? And if you know you're far apart, if you don't see any agreement possible, then you do have to reach out and decide about moving on. But I don't think that's a given. I don't think that's a lock by any means, a player of his caliber. But I also know the salary cap implications, and right now they are right up against it, certainly for this year. But then you're trying to project that out few years, and they've really lined up contracts quite well around Tyrese Halliburton. And it would almost unquestionably, especially when you add in them needing to solve the center spot of them being a tax team next year. But with Tyrese being back, they have to go for it. They have to be a tax team if they need to make it possible. No excuses.
Scott Agnes, Fieldhouse Files, joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline this morning. Talk some Pacers basketball. What do we know now about Obi Toppin? Is he getting close? We still got a month to go. Where are we at?
We have not gotten any update of any kind, Jeff, from there. Rick Carlisle was very strict, saying right after the surgery, hey, don't ask us about him until February 1st. So we're approaching that. We've seen him do some things, but not a ton. Nothing a significant note to pass along. And so, yeah, we're kind of still in the dark with that situation. He's a guy they've missed all season long, and he would have really helped, I think, clarify what they were able to do and how they would have been able to fill the void in the short term at that center role.
Last one from me, Scott. Kind of an open-ended question, but what defines success for the Pacers the rest of the way? Is it just making sure, as Kevin Bowen alluded to earlier this morning, keeping Pascal Siakam in bubble wrap, making sure he stays healthy for a win? Everything kind of gets back on track next year. Is it trying to see if you can still get some growth out of Jarris Walker and Benedict Mathurin if they're on the team past the trade deadline? Like, how do you view, again, what success is for this team?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question of how setting this standard for not only the team, but what to expect and what you need to be demanding of this bunch. Look, guys, players, they're thinking about the team. They're thinking about wins. They're thinking about having a good day tonight and tomorrow. They're not thinking about the lottery or the draft like many fans, all fans probably are at this point, which is totally understandable. But from the team standpoint, I go back, number one, to a quote Rick Carlisle said several years ago when he said, earning your culture is an everyday thing. So I think it's continuing to play up to a standard. And I think, if anything, that, James, is what we learned from IU football. It's not the personality. It's not the coach. It's the standard and discipline that is asked and demanded of the guys every single day. So to me, that's number one. Secondly, you want to continue to see more growth, as I referenced, from some of the younger guys, because maybe you make decisions on them, or if anything, maybe they could become chips that you utilize for a potential trade. And then, yeah, I don't know if you can limit Pascal's minutes just a little bit so that you're managing his workload in a more comfortable spot with all that. And then I think I would throw in there, getting back to what we knew this team could do defensively, because there's been a lot of good things, but there's also been some great challenges. And then I believe that's what's really trickled in and spoiled what they've done and been unable to do on the offensive end many of these nights.
Scott, last one. Shifting gears here, we saw the Fever announce their schedule for next season. May 9th, I want to say, the opener. It could be Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers. Are we just under the impression that they'll figure out the CBA thing. Like I don't know. It seems a little odd how this is all played out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we should assume anything, first of all. I don't think this is a great indication or a bad one. I think this is the WNBA going in status quo, trying to make sure, probably number one, more than anything, beyond selling tickets or drumming up excitement. To me, number one, this was making sure they have those dates booked at these arenas. Because if I'm one of these arenas and I don't have anything locked in, aren't you going to sell a concert or Disney on Ice or anything like that? And so I think they felt they needed to proceed forward with all of that, because the reality is it doesn't feel like they've moved any closer in their communication or getting closer to a deal here. And so, yes, it's all nice that we have potential dates, but there's also more pressing issues that need to be attended to. There's a couple of new teams that have 0 players right now. So that's where it makes it difficult to discuss teams in their schedules when we don't know how an expansion draft looks like and so many other line items.
Yeah, and just speaking specifically about the Fever, they got a lot of roster questions to take care of aside from what you're just talking about there, as most teams do. This could get really dicey for a while.
Entirely, yeah. And you can't assume, even when you come to an agreement, oh, yeah, then you're good within the next week or two. No, these things take time, organization. How are you going to handle this? I'm sure through back channels and such, the league's trying to keep league executives updated on potential dates, for certain things so that they can plan ahead. And it's, the scouting is not stopping. But this is certainly a yellow flag, borderline red flag at this point. This is about the time that I fully expected a deal to be done, kind of mid-January. It's what happened the last time they had a CBA. I was not concerned. If it goes another week or two, I would get really concerned about everything starting on time, Jeff, and playing a full 44-game schedule.
All right, buddy. Thanks as always for the time. We'll talk to you every Thursday and in between if anything big breaks. But great job, and I'm glad you've had the season and the year that you've had, because it doesn't happen that way very often, man. It's been fun.
Yeah, grateful for sure. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. There he is, Scott Agnes, joining us from the Fieldhouse Files, and you can tell he's still on cloud 9, as most people that are fans of Indiana football are this week. They're still just like, pinch me.
That's a day one fan, Scott Agnes. That man has been a big football fan for quite some time. James, I don't know if I'm overly surprised by this, but just saw the NFL release the finalists for their various awards. Obviously, I didn't expect much Colts flavor to be anywhere on it. I am a little surprised Tyler Warren didn't crack a finalist for Rookie of the Year.
Can you read off the finalists?
So AP Offensive Rookie of the Year: Jackson Dart, Emeka Ibuka from the Bucks, Travion Henderson, Patriots, Ted McMillan from the Panthers, and Tyler Shuck from the Saints.
Yeah, honestly, listen to that list. I'm not sure if I can put Tyler Warren ahead of any of those guys.
I mean, you got 4 of the 5 that didn't make the playoffs. So it's not like it's a team success award. Oftentimes you can kind of get into, which I get. Ty goes the runner. I feel like team success should matter there. But, I know that the Warren stats really dropped off. But if you would have said to me at 7 a.m. this morning, hey, do you think Tyler Warren will be one of the 5 finalists for AP Offensive Player of the Year? I probably would have said, yeah, I think he'll be one of the 5. But I don't know.
Yeah, a good argument could be made for it, but at the same time, I think that there is I think his spot kind of got taken by Tyler Shuck being good for like the last 5 weeks of the season. Because if you want to play that game, and I guess the argument for Tyler Warren in that regard will be like, I played a full season, whereas with Tyler Shuck, he played, again, I think it was a little over a month. Now, he was promising in his starts, but as we always say in football, you get a lot more love at quarterback than anywhere else. So I think that's kind of how he got snubbed, if you will.
Think about what that list would look like if they just stopped the season at 7-1, Kevin. There'd have been Colts all over the place on that thing.
Boy, you could win a lot of championships if you just stopped the season at a certain point here. We could be talking about
that's what we need to do.
And talking about IU basketball in a different light here.
That's how you keep your job.
One of the Warren stats I think is really interesting, James, is if you look at the 7 highest yardage games of his season, they occurred in the first 10 weeks of the year. We've talked about the Jonathan Taylor drop-off. Warren also had that. Now, I think the Daniel Jones injury, lack of movement with Jones certainly played into it. Maybe a little proverbial rookie wall as well. You know, I didn't think he moved. Yeah, maybe I'm nitpicking here. I just didn't think he moved the same that he did earlier in the season. I mean, 17 weeks is no joke. You know, I get that Penn State made the semifinal last year, but, you know, for some of these college programs, you're looking at, 12-game seasons still, whereas, obviously the NFL's a different grind.
All right, let's check it down, Mark Dykton, and let people know what they can look forward to today, tonight, tomorrow.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here. The Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships with NCAA tournament bids on the line. March 8th through 10th. Tickets and more at horizonleague.com/Indy.
We'll start with football, since that's what we were talking about a moment ago. Yesterday, announced that Indianapolis has secured 2 more combines right here in downtown Indianapolis, which seems like a no-brainer to us, but it's always up for rebid every couple of years now, James.
It's ours, you can't have it. Got a 2-year bid this time, so shout out to Visit Indian crew. Chris Gall, my guy, getting it done on the business side of things.
All right, so we learned that yesterday. Last night, the Pacers, as we were just talking about, lost their 3rd game in a row. They were in Boston and lose to the Celtics 119-104. Pascal Siakam doing his thing. 32 points, 10 rebounds. Jarris Walker had a nice night offensively with 19, but not enough to overcome a slew of Celtics performers, and led by Jaylen Brown. 30 points, 10 boards, 5 assists. Sam Hauser, the back-to-back threes to open the game. Maybe that was a sign of things to come, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, they were somewhat competitive in that first quarter, and then it got, into double-digit territory very quickly after that. Lloyd Pierce not happy at halftime with the defending without fouling, and, again, just the inability there from a turnover standpoint. So, yeah, not a good result at all last night. At the Thunder coming up tomorrow, at the Hawks on Monday as they round out one of their longest, and I would argue their toughest road trip of the season.
James, there was one game that both of you pointed out. Kevin, you pointed it out too. Only 66 points scored by the Brooklyn Nets against the Knicks last night.
I thought that was a misprint when I first saw it.
No, I did not think that because they stink.
Scored 28 points in the second half.
Hey, man. Well, we should. No, you know what? I take that back, Kevin. We should check the books. Who bet on this game and how much? Because there's
something shaky going on.
I'm just saying, it's happened before.
You joke, but we're only laughing because we might be crying because you honestly are.
We're
talking to something.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Indiana Fever as we learn.
Terry Rozier playing in the game last night.
Wow, I don't think he's playing anywhere. Are they allowing him to play at the rec league right now?
I don't know about any of these guys, man. But anytime I see a funny score, that is a real thought that I have.
It's the position they're in.
It's so pathetic.
Fever had their schedule release yesterday. They are set to open May the 9th at home against Paige Beckers and the Dallas Wings. 17-day gap for the FIBA World Cup, but the question remains, you think there's any chance the season starts on time with labor issues hanging over everything?
I'm not sure, but I will say deadline spur action. So the closer we get to the actual season, I would expect some sort of updates when it comes to the teams in the league. But yeah, it's very interesting because there's so much going on besides trying to get a CBA agreement together. On top of that, you got a couple more teams joining the league this year and starting their first seasons. I think the Portland Fire and the Toronto Tempo.
Yeah.
So
be the first time the Fever will play internationally if they get to play Toronto this year and the labor comes through. North Carolina went over Notre Dame last night in college basketball, 91-69. It's been a rough go for Notre Dame. You mentioned earlier you thought the incident at the end of the game a couple weeks ago may have broken them, Kevin.
Broken them. Honestly, probably Marcus Burton breaking his, whatever he did, ankle is probably what ultimately broke them. But yes, a disappointing season for the Irish. And ugly last night, I will say Caleb Wilson.
There he goes.
Very
0 for
good.
4.
It's not 0 for 10. 4. That was 0 for. Yeah, I look like Birdman in the dunk contest there. Caleb
Good
Wilson,
reference.
power forward for the North Carolina Tar Heels, very skilled. So I'm intrigued. I know AJ DeBanza will be the one that I think everybody wants, but Caleb Wilson, I don't know here. Are they not drafting 4 men because of Pascal Siakam, or is that not a thing?
that's not a thing. If you pick in the top 5, you get the best player available.
Yeah.
If you trade Benedict Mathurin, does that influence more of the wing focus?
Yeah, for sure. But even then, if you don't trade him, Benedict Mathurin should not be anywhere near your decision making if you get a top 5 pick.
College basketball, Friday night, Butler will be hosting Marquette. We just had the chance to talk to Thad Matta, the head coach of the Bulldogs, a moment ago. That one will air at 7:30 with tip at 8 o'clock on 92.7 Fuego tomorrow night. Indiana will play at Rutgers. That one starts at 6. And then on Saturday, Illinois plays at Purdue. That one will tip off at 3 p.m. And Boston College goes up against Notre Dame at 6. Are you calling that a must-win, KB?
Yeah. All of them are at this point.
All right. That's what's going on.
Rutgers, 6 o'clock tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one that you would put in the really need to have it category here. Mark, do we have any ticket giveaways?
Yeah, we have 4 packs of Indy at Night tickets. Already gave one away in the YouTube chat. We've got 3 left. 3
All right.
4-packs.
Text us Ignite at 239-1070. Ignite at 239-1070, and we'll enter you to win there. We can also tell you that IndyCar drivers get a little action this weekend. They'll start racing over the next few days at the 24 Hours of Daytona. I know that among 10 that are scheduled to race, Scott Dixon and Alex Palou will be part of the GTP that happens this coming weekend. So if you're a gearhead, you've got that to look forward to.
See the MLB moves that happened yesterday? Some big names. Cody Bellinger, 5 years, $162 million to the Yankees. Completely.
Every time you say big money, I just assume everybody's going to the Dodgers now.
I mean, no trade clause for the full 5 years. And then the big one overnight was the Mets acquiring all-star right-handed pitcher Freddie Peralta from the Fighting Joel A. Erickson Milwaukee Brewers for a slew of top prospects.
That'll be their frontline starter, I believe, will it not?
Is that just because they don't want to pay him? Is that the reasoning behind that? Why do you trade a guy like that?
Freddie Peralta is awesome.
Interesting.
So I'm happy to see him out of the NL Central.
All right. Anything else you guys would like to throw in before we move along here?
Yeah, shout out to IU Indy. Over 100 last night for Ben Howlett, the first-year head coach there. They upset Oakland, the Fighting Great Campies there. So starting to play a little bit better here recently in the Horizon League. So shout out to Jag Nation.
All right. And former IU player Will Patterson, who's been coaching Lawrence Central for the past 6 years, is moving on. He's going to be an assistant coach for the Butler Bulldogs. So that's what's happening in the world of sports right here, right now. We'll continue to talk football and the future of what's going to happen with Indiana University moving forward. Do they maintain this top-tier status as we look ahead? That's next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Good morning and welcome into the Fan Morning Show along with James Boyd and Kevin Bowen. I'm Jeff Rickard. Mark Dykton doing his thing over there. And Mark, I know you're a very curious young man. You've got a lot of questions. We've got the answers hopefully for you. And it's time to play You Gotta Know, right?
He's got questions.
How about a game?
They've got answers.
Hey, I'm more of a cornhole man myself.
Sports, music, movies.
What?
High fashion.
That Hansel's so hot right now.
And everything in between.
You ever seen a foot with 4 toes?
It's time to get a glimpse into the mind of Mark Dykton.
Stop it, you're scaring me.
It's time for I Gotta Know.
Okay, you punks, I want a good, clean fight. Let's get it on.
All right, boys, we just had Scott Agnes on, talked a little Indiana Fever, so I thought it was appropriate to start there. Fever schedule came out yesterday. The regular season schedule starts Saturday, May 9th, hosting the Dallas Wings. With the current CBA negotiations still ongoing, do you see all 44 games being played?
I'm going to say yes, because I think when you're talking about holding out and not playing, and those women need that money perhaps more than the men's leagues do, I don't see some long holdout. I just don't see that. I think the closer we get to the season, we'll see some momentum being built towards playing basketball and getting all 44 games in.
I think you're probably right, James. I think a lot of it has to do with there will be pressure put on the league by these media partners that are all of a sudden investing millions and millions of dollars, and they don't want to start things off after they've made this promise of investing and spending money. I think the league will come around a little bit. There'll probably be a little concession made by the players. But I think economics at this point in time, what an own goal, Kevin, it would be if they can't find a way to start this particular season on time.
Yeah, it would be horrific. I mean, it'd be malpractice beyond belief there. All parties involved here. I'm a big believer deadline spur action. I think back to Jeff Saturday and Robert Kraft and that picture there, so I assume all 44 will be played, and if it's not, oh boy.
Well, speaking of Robert Kraft, let's go there, Kevin. Patriots owner Robert Kraft said the league is pushing for an 18-game regular season with a double bye, eliminating a preseason game, and giving every team an international game. Is this all inevitable, or is there a thing called too much NFL football?
I think this is going to happen. I don't think it's a good thing because it's a very violent sport. We see year in, year out how brutal it can be. But I also think whenever I have to ask this question to players for like an anonymous poll for The Athletic, the majority of them are like, well, if the money's a lot more, we'll do it. That's usually what it comes down to.
I think the last thing you said is true. And we've seen this over and over and over with NFL owners and the NFL and their partners. They want more games. They want more international games. They want more exposure. They want more money. How long will it be before they open up an international network that just plays over in Europe the games that are going to be held on foreign soil every week? I
feel like they're trying to ship the Jaguars there as it is. They play overseas every year.
Did you say 2 bye weeks?
Double bye.
So double bye. You know, I've always thought if you had to give up an international game once every 4 years, one of your home games, I kind of like that. You know, I don't think that's that much of an ask in trying to grow the game. But, yeah, 18, it's just – yeah, and I'm kind of the nerdy historian. I'm like, what about these records? I feel that way about the 17-game schedule right now. It's like, one extra game can influence a lot of that too. So
yeah, there was like a big debate with like Myles Garrett. You said the sack record in 17 games, but then people were like, well, he played less snaps than the other guys. But it gets convoluted. But I honestly think – the players don't have to agree to this. They didn't have to agree to 17 games.
Right.
But they always do because money rules the world.
And a reminder, too, way back in the day, it was a 12-game schedule. Then it became, for a long time, a 14-game schedule. Then it was a big deal when it became a 16-game schedule, and now they've been playing 17 games for a while.
Are we doing with Super Bowl on President's Day? Is that what we'd be looking at that point?
Probably, yeah.
Now, I would like to see college football start things a little earlier. Playoff-wise. Mm-hmm. Next year, you see the championship dates like January 25th?
The Super Bowl next year is on Valentine's Day.
I mean, like, college football, January 25th? It's like 3 weeks into the spring semester.
Yeah, it needs to be done the first week of the new year.
Yes, I would agree. Start things Thanksgiving weekend.
Let's stick to the NFL here. Let's stay local. Do the Colts have any untouchables on their roster? And if so, who are they? If a team comes calling saying we want so-and-so, are you saying, no, we need a first-round pick or bust? Or are you shipping off anyone and everyone?
I've always said no one would fall into that category, at least, no one, not named, whatever, if you had an unbelievable franchise quarterback. But I would just want to listen for intel. So if you think somebody on my roster you want, all right, tell me what that trade package is. And then I just put that in the back of my brain, and some way, somehow, maybe down the road, it's a good morsel of information. But, as far as core guys, I think Sauce Gardner, I think Bernard Ryman, given his contract situation, Tyler Warren, some of those guys I would probably put into it would take a lot to get them off my plate.
I'm probably in the camp of you're not selling. So while you can listen, what good is trying to get a first-round pick or something now when you already gave that up? And the only person I could think who could possibly land a first-round pick, and I probably still wouldn't give it up if I was a team, is Quentin Nelson. But, how much is the left guard really worth? And if you're trying to win now, you can't get rid of that guy. So they've kind of binded themselves, Mark, in a way where they don't have much flexibility in that regard.
I think you hit on it too there, James. Who are the first-round worthy draft pick trade bait guys that the Colts have at this point in time? Quentin Nelson, yes, but he's also getting towards the back half of his career. Their best player on defense is a guy coming off a major neck injury. And DeVorest Buckner, maybe Sauce Gardner is their best player, also coming off an injury. Jonathan Taylor, a running back's not at his age, is not going to get a first-round draft pick. So, yeah, I think, Kevin, you're right, too. You sit and you listen. You figure out what people think about your roster, but I don't think you're in a real position to do a lot at this point in time.
Not good.
Okay, what would you do if you're the Pacers? We've talked about shutting down Pascal Siakam, trading some guys for pieces at the deadline. What are you doing if given that power to run the Pacers organization up until the deadline?
Boy.
At this point in time, I know this doesn't make me the most popular guy. I think you're going to get Tyrese Halliburton back next year. You're going to get a top first-round draft pick. I think, again, like the Colts, you listen for offers for your guards, but you have to really sway me to get one. I think they probably stay put and just deal with what they have right now, Kevin. What do you think?
Yeah, I've obviously been a huge Mathurin guy. I think it's all of a sudden I see this discourse where boy, Matherin's had such a bad season. I'm like, he's had 2 notable injuries and, again, you're asking his role to change a whole lot. But I also can live in reality. And you can't cure all with that top 5 pick. You can help out a lot. And if you look at the draft next year, what's up there? A bunch of high-level wings is the thought. So do you trade Mathurin for potentially a center to help you out? And then do you go out there and with that top 5 pick, you draft, potentially a really high-level wing? That, on paper, that probably makes the most sense. I would just be curious what you would, get for a Mathurin. And really the guy that I think I've been most disappointed by this season is Jarris Walker.
Yeah, Mark, I think I'm offloading one of the two, whether it's Benedict Mather and Jarris Walker. I don't think both can stay with this team in the future or really past the trade deadline. So I'd make a move there, and I would not be against moving on from Matherin either. And I'm saying he isn't a good player and someone who can be a part of your future, but to Kevin's point, if you think this is going to go downhill, which it has, and it stays that way, and you get a top 5 pick, then I think you can appease some other roster holes that you might have if you move on from him.
All right. Oscar nominations out today. Sinners leads the way with a record-breaking 16 nominations, including Best Picture and Best Actor in Michael B. Jordan. What was the best movie you saw in the past year?
I'll go Sinners, and second, I'll probably go Superman. I thought Superman was like a good, wholesome superhero movie. I'm used to the Marvel movies where it's really deep and world issues and stuff like that. I thought Superman was solid. Nostalgic even.
I thought you were going to say super bad.
No.
I will go with Zootopia too, Mark.
That was actually really good. I enjoyed it.
And I say that in all seriousness.
Yeah, that was good.
Right now I used to try to push the kids in different directions, and now I'm like, you guys want to run it back with Zootopia? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, that was a good one. We saw that in theaters. That was really good. Ashley and I watched Sinners finally last night. It was awesome. I would highly recommend that. And then One Battle After Another, the Leonardo DiCaprio one that's also up for Best Picture. That was outstanding. I would recommend all three of those.
Okay. Sunday night for Oscars? Is that what you said?
Not Sunday. No, the nominations just came out. I don't think it's till mid to late February.
I was like, I feel like we just had an award show.
That was Golden Globes. Yeah.
Jeff, you got one?
You talked about it a lot. In fact, you got me to go check it out because you liked it, and you said you didn't want your parents or your grandma to know that you'd seen it. But Sinners, I like any movie that starts off with guys are investing money that they've essentially absconded from the crime mob family, the syndicate. That's a good starting point for me.
Well, you know, my hot take about movies and shows is that it always gets better when somebody dies. If you're watching a show and it's supposed to be a drama or something and it's taking too long to get to the point, you need somebody to keel over and then it'll up the ante a little bit.
But that movie had a couple of twists and turns that I didn't see coming.
Great
man.
movie.
And not a lot of movies. I think we've all seen so many movies, it's hard for twists and turns to kind of get to you anymore. Sinners got to me. That was a good movie, man. Mark, how about you? Zootopia?
Sinners, Zootopia 2, and One Battle After Another.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Excellent. It's on HBO Max. Outstanding.
All right. Anything else, my man?
That's it.
All right. We've got some closing arguments for you as we continue next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You were just talking about postseason awards and things like that. 5 finalists have been named now for NFL MVP, and I think we all kind of know who they are. But if you had to pick one MVP, do you guys have a vote for MVP?
I do not. I am not that prestigious, and honestly, I don't want one.
Correct me if I'm wrong, James. I don't know if anybody in the market does.
Chap doesn't have one?
We don't, because Chap talks about this every year and
Right.
how it's a disservice to not have at least one representative from every market. He always brings up the fact that Steve McNair and Peyton Manning tied for MVP way back when, and Indianapolis did not have a vote that year. So, assuming Mike Chappell would have had a vote, there's your MVP, and it's not a co-MVP.
5 finalists are Christian McCaffrey, Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, Drake May, and Matthew Stafford right now. If you had a vote of those 5, James, which one would you lean towards?
Rolling with Matthew Stafford. I think that he has had a remarkable season. It's crazy that he would win his first MVP at this age. I want to say he's in his late 30s. But to me, he's the top dog, and then the runner-up will be Drake May. I can go either way, though.
Well, don't you remember ahead of the season, Stafford, they weren't even sure if he was going to play with his back and everything like
Yeah,
that. And now he put up MVP-like
ago.
numbers. I'm like, I think he's the MVP because of that. There was so much uncertainty heading into the season that he wasn't even going to throw a football.
Does the 1 seed matter to you?
No.
Well, not the 1 seed, but the higher seeding, I guess, or better record with Drake May.
I mean, again, we're splitting hairs. I know, Mark, it is funny. I remember when he had that back injury. I thought to myself, okay, the Colts play them in Week 4. Would he be ready for that? And yeah, certainly he was.
Threw for almost 5,000 yards.
Yeah,
46 touchdowns, 8 interceptions.
I mean, statistically, without question, I do think Drake May is doing more with less, and so I probably would want to look a little deeper into that aspect to it. Both have obviously had great seasons, and we really saw a flash. I think Drake May had a really nice game against the Colts. I guess it would have been 2 years ago at this point, and I'm not going to pretend to think it was going to turn into this. I mean, it's pretty remarkable the Patriots are on the doorstep of being back in the Super Bowl,
And they have to go through Jarrett Stidham to get there.
and so much has changed for that franchise. So yeah.
I think I'd probably go Matt Stafford. I think I know he's got great receivers and they've got a good running game, and Sean McVay's been there and done that, but he makes that engine run. And here they are knocking on the door to go back to a Super Bowl.
That's crazy. First year, or not first year, but I want to say, hold on, this will be his second trip to a Super Bowl. I'm sorry. So yeah, that's impressive stuff for a guy who is supposed to be in the twilight of his career. Still one of the best quarterbacks in the league, one of the most underrated quarterbacks I think ever. And if they get it done this year, I think you have to have some rewriting of the rankings and the lists that you put on when it comes to top quarterbacks ever.
Just a heads up here.
I put him ahead of Aaron Rodgers.
Weekend-wise, I saw Colin Nenrip mentioned earlier that the city tournament, for example, they're going to bump up their Saturday night semifinals over there at Tech to the afternoon, noon and 2 o'clock. So this inclement weather that sounds like is kind of a Saturday to Sunday system. Just keep an eye out for that. Locally, we have a ton of high school action, but we don't have a lot of collegiate or pro. Pacers still on the road. Purdue's got the 3 o'clock on Saturday at Mackey, but Butler's Friday night at home. IU is on the road. We do have the IU celebration down there scheduled for 1 o'clock on Saturday inside of Memorial Stadium. So just a little FYI out there weather-wise. Sounds like it's a system that could impact a lot of the United States.
Can I read the message that JMV sent our basketball group chat about playing basketball Sunday? Because he was out of town. I blamed him for us not being able to get together and play.
He's got the itch.
Yes, he texted us this morning. It was actually at 7:15 a.m. I'm back to rebuild the standard that was momentarily lost last Sunday. Let me start by saying I don't want to hear about any too much snow BS. Assuming you dweebs are not, being scared, be at the gym, be ready to go.
Awfully chesty for a guy who was just laying on the Miami beaches.
This is the clean version of what he sent us. He did not say dweebs. He said a lot of other things I can't say on the airwaves. But the point being, the man is already telling us to show up come hell or high water, in this case, snow.
Well, he's got the itch, and I'm glad he didn't come back from Miami with any itches.
Saw a couple of folks on the text line at 239-1070 say that, hey, We're still excited. We're showing up in the bad weather and the cold weather to the Indiana celebration Saturday afternoon at 1. See if John wants to go to that. Text him back, see if he's going to go outside and see that one, James.
Hey, we play basketball indoors, baby. We're soft.
Reminder, we will replay the national championship game as called by Don Fisher, Buck Schur, and John Herrick later on tonight, 7 p.m. We'll do that. We'll do it again Sunday at 1 in the afternoon, and we will carry with live coverage the celebration at Memorial Stadium at 1 o'clock, assuming they still have that. I don't think there's any way they cancel that. Is there, Kevin?
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't, do you move it inside to Assembly Hall? I don't. Is the women's team playing on Saturday inside of there? I have no idea. By the way, have you seen the IU women basketball? They haven't. I don't think they've won a Big Ten game yet.
Times have changed since the days of Grace Berger.
Sending all the funds over there to the football program, right?
Hey, you got to sacrifice something. What more do you want? Okay, man, these greedy Hoosiers fans. No, I'm joking. It is kind of. They were actually the program that was good.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The respectable one for
Terry Morton done a
years.
hell of a job.
Yeah. Craziest story I saw in the last 24 hours, all these injuries that have hit the San Francisco 49ers. James, did you see that the team is actually going to investigate this kind of out there theory that electromagnetic force from a couple of the brand new substations near their practice facility and the stadium could be contributing to the team's alarming rate? John Lynch said the team will investigate that viral conspiracy theory.
I mean, if
Cue
I
the
were
X-Files music with that one. That sounds like tinfoil hat.
If I was as injured as those guys, I probably would say the same thing because every year they have devastating injuries.
Lynch said, quote, "We've been reaching out to anyone and everyone to see, does a study exist other than a guy sticking an apparatus underneath the fence and coming up with a number that I have no idea what it means? That's what we know exists." I think his point is we're just going to look at anything and everything is his point.
Hey, as I said before, if you got those types of injuries, you want to keep Christian McCaffrey healthy, get rid of those power plants out there on the West Coast.
Hey, we were, one injury away from looking at the water in White River here, weren't we?
You're right. You're right.
What's on your viewing agenda tonight, James Boyd?
Nothing much. I don't know. You all tell me what I should be watching. Probably some Big Ten basketball, I would assume. But other than that, just trying to get through another week of weird Colts coverage. I got to do some stuff. And, boy, this time I feel like my writing, it's fine. But, it's harder to write when I'm just, a little bit apathetic about what I'm writing. I got to get some juice going, KB.
Well, I mean, the Colts are probably one of the quieter teams in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
They're not doing the searches or anything, and they obviously...
Which I'm thankful for, I will say. Selfishly...
aren't in the playoffs.
I ain't got to deal with any GM or head coaching searches.
What'd you say, Mark?
Not
a month
bad.
out from the Combine, right?
Month tomorrow.
Yeah. Senior Bowl next week, I believe. So, that can be a little newsy, nothing crazy there.
I believe our
from
guy
that
Jake
aspect of
Arthur's
it.
making that trip down there.
Yeah, and shout out to D'Angelo Pons. I know some people are like, wait a minute, he's not a senior. They've adjusted this rule. If you're a draft-eligible junior, you can do the Senior Bowl invite. So I still think we're awaiting official
So that
word.
a college rule we agree on?
Yeah, probably one of the very few. I did have to chuckle at Thad Matta responding to my question earlier of well, it's not college sports.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah,
He
that's probably a
sounded
good way
like
to
the
start.
ship has sailed is what he sounded like.
Honestly, college sports right now is closer to Major League Baseball than anything.
Yeah, you have tiers, right?
That's a good comp, actually.
I mean, that's what it's not even the NFL or the NBA. I mean, there's no hard cap.
No.
It's Major League Baseball. If you're going to compare it to any Major League sport, that's what it is. Any professional sport, I should say.
All right. I am going to check out season 2 is now streaming for Severance. They're going to release those one episode at a time. Mark, you interested in that at all?
I haven't watched season 1, so I'd have to play catch up.
Did either of you guys watch Severance?
I did watch Severance.
All right, well, that's starting over. You can stream it now if you want to check that out. All right, later on tonight, as I said, we will re-air the championship game with Indiana and Miami from Monday night. We will start it at 7 p.m. this evening. If you want to hear Don Fisher's call, that's the place to be. Have yourselves a terrific day. Jake Query comes your way at noon, JMV at 3. We'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.